lump.
What'd you call me?
No, I'm sitting on a lump.
Oh.
What does Jesse have in his bed?
I don't care, or know, or want to.
I'm waiting for you to be like, it's all of our money!
I do want to know now.
And welcome to Let's Talk in the Corner, everyone. This is Jesse.
Joey.
Mike.
And welcome to the E3 2017 edition of the Let's Talk in the Corner podcast.
Late, because that's how we roll.
Indeed.
Yep, we roll on initiative. Wow.
That
Over
was,
like a lead balloon.
that was terrible. Anyway, so our idea is we are basically going to go over each of the E3 presentations and talk about what we saw in them. And, well, what we liked, disliked. A couple of important notices, though. We will not be talking about anything that wasn't shown during the main press conferences. Work and our lives in general just made it so we just weren't able to watch the core of E3 where, like, during all the developer interviews. We mostly just watched each of the conferences and the big announcements they made. The exception is there was a tiny bit of Nintendo Treehouse that I did watch, and I will be mentioning that.
And for me, it's like also disclosure for my part is I was unable to watch every conference, so I am most likely going to miss things or not have opinions of certain games.
Also, I do not believe we are going to be covering the PC portion of the conference, as none of us, I think, really saw that. I think with the exception of Jesse, who saw parts of it, and there's probably only one thing that he's going to go gaga over.
Yeah, pretty much is only one thing, but we'll get to that in a moment. And also, other disclosure, this is not the Ace Attorney episode, as I promised in the last podcast. That's going to be in a future episode, so I...
Never.
So...
As I said, it'll be the last one.
So, and plus, there wasn't any Ace Attorney news outside from the Japan-only Phoenix Wright game coming out, and it's basically the one word.
Because Capcom are dicks.
Well, it's not. It's America, actually, because they own a strong tight hold on the use of Sherlock Holmes. And since Sherlock Holmes is in this game, they denied it to be used. So it's only in Japan. So it's just, that's why.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where that's why it's not going to be localized, because...
Fucking localization, copyright laws. I don't think, like... I don't know. Intellectual properties, like characters, I'm iffy about whether I think they should be, like, restricted or not.
Yeah,
there's, like, arguments for both sides, but that's another discussion for a later time.
Yeah.
We have enough to talk about today. If we have time later, we'll have a rant.
Yes. So granted, like, the first conference was at E3. At E3 was EA. My apologies.
I would hope so, Jesse.
Wow!
Who
knew the first conference at E3 was E3?
I know! They started off with a bang. Say, welcome to E3! And I was immediately on the floor in excitement.
Do you know how much you sounded like that character from Glove and Boots just then?
Which one?
The red one.
Oh, Mario?
Mario, that's it.
He didn't have the accent.
He didn't have the accent, but his, like, way of speaking, I swear that's what I heard. Anyways.
Take that as a compliment. So, I just have a bunch of bullet points on the games that were mentioned. I know it was also a lot of these we just basically popped in our Discord and just watched.
And Rift.
Yeah, it was basically, as we kind of mentioned from the last time when we just kind of talked about E3, so like it's become now where it's like,
I think we'll go.
Instead of just watching the games, it was mostly just riffing on the games. Because a lot of times where it's like, for me, it's like, I've experienced E3 a lot. So many broken promises, so many kind of smoke and mirrors with a lot of games. It's become like, for me, it's kind of difficult to be hyped for certain games because I see them and it's like, where are the lies? Where, you know?
This is true. And also, just the simple fact of, well, there's a whole bunch of games. Some of them I want, and most of them I can't afford. You know, because we're adults now, and money sucks. Damn capitalism.
Yep.
So, we'll start off kind of going by Need for Speed Payback.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, Need for Speed Payback. Now, I am not one for most sports games or racing games.
Yes.
They're not that interesting to me. There's not... I mean, it's basically once you've played a racing game, you've played most of them. Granted, you get new cars and occasionally new mechanics, but the last racing game, besides Mario Kart, because that's just off the wall, whatever.
Yeah.
But the last racing game I actually dedicatedly played was Need for Speed Midnight Club. That was back in the Xbox PlayStation 2 era.
Yeah.
And fun game. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it's I still don't own it, and I have it's not one that's major on my list.
Yeah, so, and basically I know kind of a lot of us, is just for me, when you're watching the cutscene, you're basically seeing a car pursuing a semi, and inside the semi is a car they're trying to take. And I remember as we're kind of watching this open cutscene, it's just basically we're seeing this very good looking car driving down this road, and there's these other cars called the Enforcers trying to basically trying to veer you off the road when you're just knocking them off to the side. I was making the comments when we see this car hit another car, not a single scratch on this main car that you're supposedly are driving, and it's well, I feel like it gets kind of getting me feeling so am I invincible or something?
That hasn't been a thing in racing games since
They're going with more of an arcade style to that, and I can respect that.
Yeah, but it's I play I know I.
Well, okay, so sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying I played some racing games where there's damage to your car. You get scratches, windshields go out. So I'm used to that, and they're not even the arcade style ones. They were just the ones you're on a track, but there's visual damage. Granted, your car does not explode, but there's visual damage. So when I thought when they're getting no visual on that, no feedback, I would think as me the player, I was so am I just invincible, or is it just going to be time?
And a counter argument to your thing about them being arcade style is that there's clearly antagonists. The idea is to ram you off the road. Their intention is to stop you. Indestructible car removes that as a threat. It's just an annoyance at that point.
I know.
I mean, I'm almost certain there will be destruction. And I did notice that sometimes the car would get damaged, but every time the car triggered one of those cutscenes where, where you cause enough damage to the Enforcers to drive them off the road,
and it goes slow mo.
It'd go slow mo to it, and then jump back to the car super fast, not giving enough time for the driver to really get back into the action. I'll talk more about that in a second. But the car would be repaired instantly. That's why it didn't seem like it ever got any damage, because it repaired after every cutscene. And since it jumped to that cutscene every time you caused an Enforcer to go off the road, probably a pre-development bug, that's still in there. But, it's... I noticed the glaring thing regarding the health of the vehicle and then auto-healing the most. When the car was first driving to that gas station, it was pretty heavily banged up. Then the cutscene started where they begin chasing after the semi, and the car's fully repaired after that starts.
Yeah, and and also to add to that, and it was at first I saw, when I first saw just and they just showed it as a trailer, and then when they showed the gameplay of it, how it's actually being made, I made the comment how the person on control, he was banging all over the road, he's running into signs. I made the comments see, this is what I want to see, because in one of those moments it looks like I'm driving now, because I'm I'm all over, usually when I play these games, I'm all over the road, I'm running into things, I'm running into oncoming traffic, because I'm terrible.
Good. I'm glad you prefaced that with the when I'm playing these games, because when you first said it looks like I'm driving, you just kind of implied that you drive all over the road and into oncoming traffic.
Yeah, so in these racing games,
yeah,
because it's a whole new level. It's just one of those things. I'm pretty sure it's because I'm not braking, properly in these games. Because I'm just I just hold down the acceleration, and then I'm just taking on these turns, and it's holy shit.
So to my point earlier regarding the cutscene, what it does this action scene. You cause enough damage, by bumping and hitting the Enforcers. Once you cause enough damage, you trigger basically a burnout takedown, burnout style takedown. And so it goes slow-mo, watches as the car flips and gets destroyed in pretty dramatic ways. And then it jumps back to the vehicle. Now, one problem I have with that is that that's just not good cinematic design. The thing is, if you're going for a slow-mo, your eyes adjust to that. What they should do is slow-mo back to your car and give you like 2 seconds to, take in everything and be ready to move again.
Yeah.
Instead, they like jump back to your car and you have like half a second to react when you're driving at like 120 miles an hour.
Yeah. And
It just is really kind of like, I mean, if you're going to have the slow-mo action shots, you need to give the player time to adjust. Otherwise, don't do the slow-mo action shots and just kind of be like, oh, vehicle's destroyed.
Yeah, and the only comment I have left to add for Need for Speed is basically, I love when they made the comment, it's like, oh, we listened to our players, they wanted a harder AI, we listened to them, and during the demo, I saw 2 of the AI cars crash themselves. and I remember making a comment, it's like, so harder, you say? So I just see them, like, they hit an oncoming car, and they just immediately hit into a wall, and it's like, oh boy.
Riveting AI mechanics here, everyone. They are so smart, they want to die.
Yeah, so this was basically the first game we saw, and are basically, this is a game that, at least me personally, I don't see myself getting, but it was so easy to riff on. Because they just kept us, it's like, it kept giving us material to work off to just rip it to shreds.
Now, a lot of these problems are, like, probably going to be patched out and fixed, but by the time production it reaches shelves, and we're kind of and I do feel we're kind of overly ripping on it. I mean, for what it is, it'll probably like hit the racing fans pretty nicely. It's your standard racing thoroughfare. So I mean, it looked pretty. That's
definitely
for sure.
Very pretty.
So I mean, we're kind of riffing and kind of trash talking it, but take it with a grain of salt. We're not racing gamers. These aren't the types of games any of us really actively play. I mean, sure, we might, like, jump into one and play a little, but, we're not the intended audience for this kind of game. So, take our comments with a grain of salt. The next are the various sports games.
Hang on, Mike, you've been relatively quiet about all of this.
I said something.
Just doesn't have...
So, I for that game specifically, I only caught the very end of the stream on it. So I'm sorry I don't have much of a comment on it. Except for it does remind me of the old Need for Speeds, as far as like invincible cars and stuff like that, back on the GameCube and stuff. Because there's like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, and yes, very much if you wrecked against a tree, there's not going to be any damage. That's the kind of arcade style racing thing that I'm thinking of when I said that earlier. The old ones, which the older ones were fun. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, I played that to 100% and I loved it. I mean, I don't see as big of an issue with it as them, to be quite honest. But then again, I only caught the very end of it.
Yeah, for me, it's not that I'm taking issue in it. It was just like, for me, I just took it as riffing material. Because it's just, for me, it's like, this is a game I see it's worth to other people's eyes, but it's just like, in the end, it's like, I most likely would be a game that I don't see much enjoyment in personally. Nothing against the game itself, so it's just so easy to riff on it.
Yeah. So in kind of review, a game that I'd buy if it were like on sale, like for cheap, but
like how cheap?
I'm talking like $20.
All right.
It's not. It is so far down the line of the games I want that even then I probably wouldn't even pay attention to it. I'd just be like, all right, where's my fantasy strategy?
So basically zero hype.
Zero hype. But, again, not the genre of games we're really interested in. That leads us kind of to the next ones, which I'm just going to kind of throw these next 4 together.
Yeah.
NBA Live, Madden NFL, FIFA for the Switch, and FIFA 18. Sports games...
That's really not any of our cups
less so than racing. I mean,
and it is also very difficult. Like sometimes, I try to see like what's good in it, but it's like it's one of the things I always riff on. I hear the promises, like the most, I say the most advanced Madden to date, and it's like, sure,
and until next year.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why whenever I hear the promises that these people try to do to lay on the hype. It's just I wish I just had I could just cut to a clip of them saying the same exact things every year, and it's like, yes, most advanced Madden until the next one.
In a kind of neutral statement regarding it, though, the NFL game, Madden NFL 18, Basically, it is including a major story mode, and that's not really something that's heavily included in Madden games. Most Madden games, they're your standard, typical, you play the game, you choose your dream team, or, you basically make your fantasy football team. And, you play football, It's that kind of game, as far as I'm aware. This one actually has a major story mode with a predetermined character, not one you make. So...
Yeah.
Well, I could change it up. I mean, there's tons of, sports movies of, getting through these ordeals, and some of them are fairly good. I'm still not a big sports guy, but,
Yeah, I agree with that. And honestly, I think it's a kind of a neat addition. It does kind of add... It adds an addition to the game that they've never really included before, I mean... They've included story modes from what I understand, It was like you made your own character and you basically played their career.
You basically create a legend kind of mode.
Yeah, but this one is actually like the rising up, the trials, the tribulations, and the life story of a character, that they make. And so, and they seem really excited for including this major story mode. FIFA 18 is also including a story mode. I do not remember too much about that one, though. It wasn't as heavily emphasized.
I think we tuned out when sports came on, and it's inedible. It's like when it's EA, it's like it's their franchises that make them money, so it's inedible. But it's like it's difficult for me to see what's good in it because one, she has riff material, and I hear the promises every year, so it just kind of
and we don't care.
Yeah, so it's like, sorry we can't really talk much the depth on it because it's easy to just tune out.
Finally, there's FIFA for the Switch. Now, I'm only going to really bring up anything interesting about this because of the way EA is treating the Switch. EA seems to be kind of treating the Switch as it is a predominantly mobile system. It is a handheld system. That's how they're treating it.
Yeah.
And granted, I know it kind of is, but... most other companies, including like Nintendo, Ubisoft, and Bethesda, they're pushing this as it is a home console you can take on the go, whereas EA seems to think of it as a very powerful handheld. So the difference in perceiving will probably color a lot of EA's support for the system. It is nice that they're finally starting to kind of dip the, test the waters sort of the Nintendo consoles again. But, it's very limited support. EA's never been that big of a contributor to Nintendo.
No, it is not.
At least not with its major titles. So we'll see how this goes, but it doesn't sound like... It just the way they seem to treat the Switch doesn't seem to be a major... Like, it doesn't imply that there's going to be major support for it. You know? They're just treating it as a powerful handheld. If FIFA for the Switch does well, they might decide to start, ramping up and throwing more on it.
Yeah.
But again, with the mentality of powerful handheld, it's probably not going to be any of their major titles.
Yeah. And the only comment I have to add for that is like I loved how they promoted the FIFA on the Switch and the aspect they show like a bunch of people playing soccer, then they immediately stop, break out the handheld and start playing on it. I'd be like, for me it's like the players are already pretty small on that small of a screen, and like these are people like probably a couple feet away playing on thing. I'm like, how are you playing that?
But multiplayer on the Switch is surprisingly good.
I'm actually... We'll get to that more when we get to the Nintendo conference, but Nintendo is actually very heavily pushing multiplayer on the Switch.
Yeah. Which I'm glad they're starting to do local play.
Yeah, they're really pushing local play, and like they're combining local play along with the network play where you just like play with someone else with their Switch right in front of them. But you can also play it with like two Switches, or two people playing one Switch, albeit with the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, but still, like, I'm not going to get into this now. Let's wait for Nintendo to discuss that more.
Yeah, I was just saying, I just love when they do the promotional stuff. Like, hey, let's play soccer. Now let's play soccer.
They did that in the original video.
I know, that's why I just love that nonsense.
They just kind of reuse that. But so the next game, A Way Out, a kind of your standard zombie thriller type of game, if I recall.
No, that's the Prison Break.
Oh, no.
A Way Out is just the two different screens as you try to play these different characters and get them out of prison.
Oh, okay.
That's
sorry.
not. You're going way up.
Sorry, I was. Oh, okay. I think I know.
A Way Out is.
Okay, I know what's going on.
It's from the same people that made Brothers, the same developers. Are basically making this basically making a co-op game based on two separate characters trying to make their way out of prison. And what's interesting about this is basically it's split screen. But how they do it is you control these characters at the same time, in the same frequency, and like when something major is happening to a certain character, it kind of increases the size of the screen for that certain person. So it's kind of there's no like everybody says my way I took it, avoiding people losing detailing because they're trying to share that screen. So it's basically also a way of cinematically showcasing what's happening.
Mm.
So, as it clearly shows, I didn't really get too much information out of that one. I don't know if I missed it or wasn't paying attention or what.
I completely missed that one, unfortunately.
Now,
that seems interesting, though.
Yes.
Now, one of two very interesting games from EA, and these were probably the two that I actually kind of cared about because they're kind of interesting.
Actually, before you move on, I just want to make one comment on the Way Out. I do like how that game is presented. I do see myself playing it, but it's like it requires co-op. And also it's followed by, now who can I convince to play this with is always the challenge, because like...
Really? You have to ask.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times it's like either people say, oh, I'll play this when it's on sale, and I was like, and I have to wait.
And
is it local co-op?
You're thinking
Yes.
of the Switch.
No,
it's not on the Switch.
I'm not thinking of the Switch.
Oh.
Yeah, and it does.
I was asking if it was co-op. That doesn't mean Switch, Joey.
Yeah,
I think you're okay.
it is local, but it's just still one of those moments.
We're here every Friday, Jesse.
And how often do we routinely play the same game?
I know.
We are terrible at that. Really, we start a game, we play it for a few hours,
and then
we go home. We never touch it again.
I'm sorry,
Uncharted
Persona.
4's never been beaten. Persona 5's never been beaten.
You got far in that first one you said.
Yeah, Bloodborne has never been finished.
Oh, we barely started that one though.
Yeah, Bloodborne, Uncharted 4,
Like-
Tales of Fantasia, all sorts of games. We're terrible at it.
Yeah, so many games we start, but never continue. And plus,
I'm
it's
bad
one
at
of-
that myself.
and it's one of those things where it's like, I'm pretty sure we Remedy, like, we switch off characters and such, but it's like, there's three of us and it's 2-player, and it's just like one of those things, like, we would have to, like, trade off or something to ensure that someone's not just on their phone and that kind of thing, because it's also going to be that thing where, what are the chances are also exciting for a viewer standpoint compared to a player standpoint as well.
Yeah, some games are like, they have good viewer material, but others are just like, meh.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fun to play, but if you're watching it, you're just like, oh, this is kind of dull,
And plus, one thing you're only gonna gonna experience when playing it is there any moments where it's like, it's gonna be like, what is there a checkpoint system? Like, if is there a fail state? Like, is there like if your co-op partner utterly fails, do you have to do the same thing again? And that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Did they implement showing a failing in that game?
There are games that if they're single player, they offer good points in which you can switch out. I remember Mike and I played all of Oblivion by just switching the controller back and forth.
Yes.
We are getting off topic though.
Yes, we are. Okay, so onwards, continuing with E3.
Yes.
Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yes.
Now, this one actually looks like the Battlefront game that we were hoping for the most part.
Yeah.
They're actually including a proper story mode. They're, including much more heavily into more versatility in the combat mechanics. So, I mean, in that regard, awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm actually the story mode where you play as an Imperial officer. That looks interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially the more common, and it's like, instead of just you're the same character and it's just different on what your gun and building, there's classes instead. And I'm like, yes. Because in the end, that was one thing when I played Battlefront, was basically, and of course there was the kind of controversy early on, is if you pre-ordered, you got access to Han Solo's weapon, which was absurdly powerful. And normally you get it as you get like the level 20 and such, but when everyone started at level 1 and this person has this pistol, At the starting, it's just like person who has the pistol wins, because that's nothing, you didn't really have much to combat it.
Which leads me to my biggest gripe with the game, and honestly probably why I won't play it too much multiplayer, at least in the hero sense. And that is, quite frankly, the heroes. Unless it's like a case where it's all heroes, the problem is that the hero system is so ridiculously unbalanced that it's practically not fun. I mean, like, they were showing off during E3 somebody running around as playing as Darth Maul. And the thing is like he'd insta-kill everything on the enemy team. You know?
Because
and
lightsaber.
Yeah, because lightsaber and hero and, yay. And I get it, these heroes are supposed to be drastically overpowered than your standard grunt in the Star Wars universe. The problem is that you're just it's like you see the enemy, you may as well lay down and die. Because, I mean, unless you have a hero to counter him.
Or you group up and throw grenades like crazy.
Yeah, and even then, if they manage to avoid the grenades, well, you're all dead, you just fed his kill count. So, the problem is that the balancing for the heroes is not that great. Plus, another problem they have is that it's usually dark side versus light side. And the dark side has more lightsaber duelists than the light side does, and there are more shooting classes for heroes on the light side than the dark side. The dark side really has Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't really have anyone else for the hero side.
And it's followed by other characters who are iconic in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, and then it's like the hero side, they have stuff like Leia, Han Solo, there was someone else they included. I think they might have included like Cody, the clone.
Yeah.
But the thing is like there's so much more. Like the thing is, the different classes completely alter the game. So if you get someone like Leia, but the other person gets like Darth Maul with a lightsaber, and lightsabers can deflect blaster fire. So Leia's just sitting there. It's like, well, you just have X more health than the standard grunt.
Yeah, and it's just like with I know Leia, it's like, if I remember correctly, this one's just like, don't quote me on this, but I remember just like Leia went in the original, in the Battlefront, it was you basically had, basically buffs to give other people, and they give like, and I think it was armor or health, I can't remember, which basically she was like, had buffs to give to the... She
was a support role. And that wouldn't be bad in a case of all heroes, and the enemy team had something similar.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem, that's the big problem, is that there's not really a sense of balancing across the classes, So
you're telling me there's not a balance in the Force?
And then you get to be Anakin.
Yeah.
Actually, do you? I don't recall if they announced Anakin Skywalker as...
I was making a joke.
I mean, I know they included, like, Darth Maul, and then they have, of course, the Battlefront, from the original trilogy, those heroes. And then they have, like, the new ones, Kylo Ren, Rey, what is the black guy? I don't remember his name.
Mace Windu?
No.
The new black guy.
Yeah.
Oh.
That sounds bad.
Oh.
I don't recall it. Finn! It's Finn.
Finn.
Yes.
I feel terrible.
Yeah, so do I. But anyway, they include them, so it's possible they might include more characters from the original trilogy. Yeah. Which I hope. I really hope they include Obi-Wan. Yeah. I love Obi-Wan. He's my favorite character in Star Wars.
And also the one thing kind of shocked a lot of people, no season pass.
Oh yeah, free DLC for it. And that shocked a lot of people considering it's EA. However, I've heard a lot of people say, it's like, that's great. Now keep it up. If you don't, we don't forgive you.
And followed by news of microtransactions.
There's the EA we all know.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, I found that later on. It just reports of like, yeah, there's no season pass, but there's microtransactions. And that's like, almost for me, it's like, how much you want to bet?
Good.
They're being
good. We were starting to get worried that EA was gaining a heart. I mean...
Yeah. And it's like, how much you want to bet? It's going to be loot boxes.
EA has a soul. I mean, this is like the end times.
Yeah.
But,
and I still want... My final comment on Battlefront was basically when they were showing it in one of the trailers, they're showing, like, like they're showing like so we were listening to our fans' feedback, and they're showing like what look like Twitter posts and like people demanding for a single player, and we're watching on Total Biscuits on this, and I just love their comments like, this can't be Twitter, these are way too nice as feedback.
Yeah, they chose the mild feedback.
Yeah, none of them were of course no swear words or anything
and they
like
all
that.
had fairly decent like grammar.
Yeah, grammar
and Twitter.
Yeah. we're from we're experienced Twitter, like, yeah, I've seen hateful comments where it's like, yeah, that happens. So that's my final comment, just something funny to see in the promotional trailer.
So one I'm interested in, and I very may possibly get it. We'll see. Probably depending on the reviews when it comes back.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I like Battlefront, but again, with most first-person shooters that have a strong online element, if no one else is playing with me, I get to like level 20 and I just stop, because then it's like, I get to that area, it's like, this would be fun if I was playing with someone, and I stop.
That's the point in most MMOs.
Exactly.
Is level 20. If you can get past that, then you're probably going to stick with it for a while.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so that one's going to be like, we're very skeptical, but I'm slightly hopeful for it. I basically, when I saw Battlefront 2 come on stage, was like, this is basically what EA is bringing to the table about all between the sports and the Need for Speed.
So let's continue on. We're already at half an hour and we haven't even gotten out of EA yet.
Yeah.
So the final game that EA announced was Anthem, which is basically Destiny. It's EA's answer to Destiny, and
is that the one with the mech suits?
Yes.
That one looks good.
It does. But we didn't see much of it, but what they did show does look pretty good. It's a very pretty game. Absolutely. Yes. It's gorgeous looking.
Although I don't think it's going to be as fluid as they showed it. That had to be heavily scripted.
Because it went from, like, this person went into this, like, basically this mech suit, basically the size of, like, himself, not, like, full-on, like, huge robot, and then you see him just take off on jetpacks. And
now, the jetpack mechanic, if they do have that, now, BioWare does have pretty good experience with the jetpack. That is one thing that people really did like about Andromeda. And it sounds like most of Andromeda's team, or not Andromeda's, the original BioWare team were working on Anthem. That's why they didn't work on Andromeda. And it was kind of funny. The very first thing they showed, when they showed like the actual gameplay of Anthem, they actually showed the gameplay of Anthem during the Xbox presentation. Yeah. But I'll talk about it here since it's an EA game. Was a character coming up and talking to your character, and it just screamed, "Look, we can do facial animation." Yes. But then they actually showed the gameplay, and if the rocket pack works half as well as it appears, it's going to be a fun system. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see if it has. I do hope that BioWare throws in their story experience, because that is my biggest gripe that Destiny had, is its story was absolute garbage.
Yeah, they had some issues.
They had to add DLC for story.
Yeah, because their whole idea was, go online to experience the full story. It's like, I don't care about that. Just give me the story in the game.
Yeah.
If they want to do their collectible cards things, at least let me read the cards in the game.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that BioWare really puts their story, if BioWare puts in their experience in telling a good RPG story in with this Destiny clone, I will get it. It looks fun.
It does.
And, it looks, has solid mechanics, and there's not much else I can say about it. I mean, that is probably the one game from EA that it's just I think I'll get that one.
Yeah.
Probably not immediate release, but
just basically holding your fire until reviews come out and such.
Oh, right. So, I think that wraps it up for EA again.
That's EA. So then I know the next one was Bethesda that we watched.
But the next one was Ubisoft.
Ubisoft was next?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Ubisoft was next. My apologies. So yeah, Ubisoft was after.
And Ubisoft probably had the contender for the best presentation. They actually came out pretty strongly with Actually, I think Xbox was next, but anyway. They had
somebody didn't organize the list.
So
No.
I had 1 hour to get a list ready. You try to do better.
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly.
So no bitching. Anyway, we'll just go Ubisoft. So anyway, they had a pretty neat presentation. The first thing they did this kind of like soft music band that was playing a song while this waterfall with symbols were floating down it. And I didn't notice until later, but each of those symbols corresponded with the games that they announced.
Yeah, so like these games are not in any order. It's just mostly what I found them. So
That was PlayStation that did that. I'm an idiot.
Not arguing.
Yeah. So anyways, we'll just go through the list.
Okay, so I don't recall Steep. What is Steep?
Steep is like that snowboarding and skiing game
Ah, yes.
that almost no one plays, but they announce, here comes the DLC for Olympics.
Yeah.
And I remember it's like, a Total Biscuit made the comment, it's like when they looked on the Steam charts of like how many people are playing it, it was like 88 people were playing it when they did a co-optional podcast that day. It's like, oh god. So they're basically announcing it's coming for the Switch. So it's like, good luck.
It might do a little bit better because it's that kind of gimmicky thing that some Nintendo fans like.
Yeah.
So it might actually do better. But speaking of the Switch, this one is actually probably one of my most, if not the most anticipated game. Well, not anticipated, but the game that got the most interest out of me.
Yeah.
That was Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
That-
basically XCOM with Mario and the Rabbids.
Yeah, and I remember
Yes.
I remember hearing about it, being like 0% interested and like absolutely against it. Once I saw the gameplay, it's like they made me hyped for it. It's like, oh heck yeah.
So-
Like no mystery. Anyone who knows me knows I freaking love XCOM to death.
Yeah, so it's like it was a game that I saw like pictures of. It showed Mario with this little hand cannon, like he was Mega Man
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Rabbids around him, and I'm just like, I don't get this. It just seemed like another one of those kind of crossover games that they have Mario do occasionally. And
Like
it's
I
just
predicted it was just gonna be like some turn-based RPG bullspit, like something I was not gonna be interested in.
I figured more platformer. I mean, turn-based RPG might be interesting, but I kind of figured it was going to be another one of those Rabbids crossover type games.
Exactly.
Like, Rayman Raving Rabbit, and it's just like, eh. But then they actually showed the gameplay, and it's like, wait, this is basically XCOM on the Switch using Mario and the Rabbids, and I was particularly fond of the Peach Rabbid because she was so sassy. I loved it. Especially when she started, like, judging the actual Peach.
Yeah, just...
she's just like, nah, this is,
looking at the...
plebeian.
like, tugging at her dress, like, kind of... Nah.
Yeah, scoffing at Princess Peach's, like, attire.
And, like, Peach is just kind of, what the heck is this?
I loved it. And it's like, there was that moment when Peach was, like, being threatened by the enemies, and... for a brief second, you kind of see her just decide, fuck it, I'm going to save myself. Wham! Kills them all. And it's just like, fine. It's like, I like this. So that game I am looking forward to. Let's see. They're also doing Rayman Legends Definitive Edition for the Switch.
Awesome. Rayman Legends is a great game.
It's a very fun game. I especially love the rhythm-based levels. Those are probably my favorite.
Yes.
Then Starlink, Battle for Atlas. Now, this is an interesting and iffy game. The concept sounds really cool. You have this little adapter that you put on your controller that kind of corresponds with
your actual ship in the game.
Yeah, with your actual ship in the game. And each of the like weapons and armaments and stuff like that are modular. So you can take them off and put new ones on based on your need. Question is, though, how much is this all going to be? Because
what's included in the... Is there going to be like a starter edition?
Yeah, is there going to be a pretty good, like, decent starter edition? And then they announced that you're going to be able to do it digitally as well without the peripheral. Does that mean you can unlock them in the game, or is it just going to be largely microtransaction based?
Yeah.
God, if it's microtransactions...
Not going to get it if that's the case. I mean,
it
looked fun. What they showed, the concept is really good, and I actually believe it will probably do well. You know, it.
Huh, Mr. Amiibo.
Yes.
Well, like even ignoring the amiibo factor, I mean, those kind of games, you
Yes.
know, where you collect characters or items and stuff like that, and then use them to add them to the game. Those sell pretty well. You know, Disney Infinity, the amiibos is probably the biggest like success story in that.
And that
And we'll
next
get
to
to those later.
Skylanders.
Yeah, Skylanders. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one. You know, so I don't know. We'll see how they go with that.
Yeah, so that one's definitely like we said, like, oh, this looks like a cool, ship game. I know immediately people just jumped on like, it's No Man's Sky. It's like, I want to strangle you all because you're not funny.
Yeah.
Talking to you. Any hoozle.
Okay, so I'm gonna just ignore South Park Phone Destroyer. I didn't.
Why would you want to ignore that?
I didn't pay attention to it at all.
Yeah, it's basically a Well, for me, it's like it's a continuation from the previous South Park game, which turned out to be a surprisingly good RPG.
I have heard that.
And it's like one of those games, like, holy crap, it's actually really fun. And it is, of course, the name, the name, The Fractured But Whole.
Okay, so I'm talking about the mobile app game, Phone Destroyer. That's the one I'm saying I didn't pay attention to.
Yeah,
The actual game.
They showed the app after the game.
The actual game that they announced, South Park: The Fractured But Whole, and the name, it's an amazing alliteration. Bravos on that, and it is it looks fun. It's funny. It has in kind of an interesting core idea to it.
Yeah.
And it's basically an RPG with the humor of South Park. And while I didn't really ever get into the South Park show, I mean, the jokes in it seem funny. And one thing I did appreciate is during it, like when they were showing it off, they did show a joke where they're talking about Timmy, the kid in the wheelchair. He had this thing where he used his mind powers. It's like you need to realize it, Cartman. It's like it was basically joking. It's like your franchise is dead. You used to be good, but you're just not anymore. And Cartman's just like, you son of a bitch. And I loved it because it was just like,
he's insulting in my brain.
Yes, he's insulting me in my brain. You bastard. And it was just like the self-depreciative humor. I've always been fond of like shows and companies that can show a kind of self-depreciating humor. I don't know why. It's just something I've always found amusing.
Exactly.
It's nice. The Crew 2. Now,
that one I just made the comment. It's like not Burnout. It's like Need for Speed, but with options.
Yeah. Honestly, of the racing games announced, there were 3 major racing games announced during E3, and no, I'm sorry, there were 4. And this was the only one that had any remote interest in it for me, because it not only encompassed cars, but planes and
ATVs,
motorcycles, motorboats. It was basically anything motorsport. It included, and so the trailer they showed for it was quite impressive. I did like the trailer, but just the concept of it's like racing with all these different types of things. I liked it. It seemed kind of interesting. Granted, again, not a major game on my list, but
caught interest.
Degree. Yes, it did catch some interest, and it's like, okay, I like this better.
Yeah.
The next one, I'll save that one for last. Far Cry 5. This one's interesting. It takes place in America.
Yes.
And
in a made-up place in Montana.
Yeah. And so it's just. It's an interesting concept, and it's like cool. They're kind of pulling it out of third world countries or made up countries and kind of bringing it a little bit close to home.
Yeah.
There have been some talk on, whether this is a political statement by Ubisoft, but honestly, I'm kind of going with the comment made by Reggie Fils-Aimé of it's like, we'll leave the political commentary to someone else. Just looking to have fun, and if it's fun, I have no problems. I don't give a damn what its message is.
Yeah, it's
it's not going to make me want to go and rebel against the United States.
No, it's just basically.
No, we leave that to Trump.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like in the sense I just take it. It's just basically people that are, it's just basically a cult. They make it up front, it is a cult, and into where they are taking, they're basically taking, but the message, they're taking God's will in their own hands in an extreme way. That's what they are. It's just, they're taking things on an extreme level. So I see what they're getting at, but like they're not pointing fingers. And you say that right as you're pointing finger at Mike. By the way, Joey.
No. That one, the pitch black.
Sorry. So we're getting drinks. So
Sorry. Yeah, I was trying to be quiet, but Jesse kind of pointed me out. So
how dare you?
Cold.
do you
I'm good. So, but anyway, so just to that moment where it's like, it's just kind of like I said, they're just like extreme cult members. Basically, kind of the idea in the trailer is like, you will atone for your sins, as they're pointing like an assault rifle at like someone that's captured. It's like, yes.
I was kind of hoping you would say you will atone for your shins.
But
so basically, you're just, what it seems like you're just in a resistance group to get rid of these, crazy people.
Yes. Next one on the list, Assassin's Creed Origins, and this one looks interesting. It takes place in ancient Egypt, and this is basically the precursor to all the games.
Yeah.
There will not be a game that takes place any earlier in the world's timeline than this. It's basically set in ancient Egypt, right around the times of the Great Pyramids, and it's basically the founding of the Assassin's Order. So, unless they do something with the precursors, they're not going any earlier than this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising. They're giving themselves a definite early point, but granted, history before that was kind of unknown and vague anyway, so.
Yeah.
But, anyway, the game looks interesting, although it is a lot more RPG-ish than is standard for the series.
Mm-hmm.
Leveling up, ability points and scores, and weapon levels.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see. That's something that just kind of raised a few eyebrows, but overall, the gameplay and the combat mechanics, it seems like it's kind of a return to form, like of Assassin's Creed 1 through 1, 2, 1 and 2, and Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I do hope that the year off that they gave the series will actually show some light and kind of restore it.
Yeah.
It was a fun series, but then it just kind of trickled out as it just seemed like they forgot where they were going with the story.
It just, cycling out more and more, and then just like, you gotta get samey.
Yeah. It got samey. It no longer had that whole intrigue of, the overarching storyline of the modern day Templars versus Assassins.
Yeah.
The original few games had this kind of like overarching story featuring like Desmond Miles, and like the Templar, this one like descendant of the Assassins captured by the Templars, and they view his memory, and then he later escapes, and they see more of his descendants of his ancestors' memories. Yeah. And the overall idea was interesting. Then they just forgot.
Yeah, and then it didn't help either. Like when Assassin's Creed Syndicate came out, and it was riddled with bugs. Like people would spawn in without faces during cutscenes, and like people, when you walk outside, your frames per second would diminish.
The facing happened in a couple of the games.
Yeah, so it's like, but it's this one where it's like there was a strong like outcry of this happening at launch.
Yeah. I still think it's amazing that those games are made in Flash, or at least the original ones were.
Yeah.
That's incredibly impressive with the way they look.
Yeah, using Adobe Flash. Although, granted, I'm not sure if the like major core of the game they just used Adobe Flash. They didn't say for what. So
yeah,
that's
it's also impressive how fast they were pushing them out.
Yeah,
or they can push them out.
Yeah.
And another game they announced, Beyond Good and Evil 2.
This one surprised me.
Surprised me. A lot of people expected it was coming, but honestly, I do not have much of a memory of the original Beyond Good and Evil.
Don't think I played it.
I didn't either, but
I played a bit of the beginning, but it was like one of those things where I had a free demo of like way back, like when it was on a demo disc for the original Xbox. Like I remember, it was just like I just remember it was like I'm in a cabin somewhere, and one of the things they said, like, oh, it has an Xbox, and it just had a bunch of demos discs, because they're free. So I know like the person was like, yeah, you're cheapskate, but so I played it a bit. But that's all I have memory of. It was like, yes, I played it, but it was like in demo form.
Now, the trailer for it looked very, very interesting.
Yes.
Honestly, it's the one that really kind of piqued my interest. It's kind of like humans live alongside these anthropomorphic animals, and there's no real clear indicator of is there an alpha species? Are like the animals in charge of humans in charge of animals? It seemed almost more like it was just generally we all live together.
Yes.
And it started out with this this monkey coming up to this like crime boss. Clearly was a crime boss.
Yeah, pig with tattoos.
Yeah, pig tattoo. Eating it. And it's basically like, hey, I have this thing that you want. Give me, give me this data disk that shows like star charts or whatever.
Yeah.
And and so the monkey tricked him. Yeah,
it turned out to be a fake.
Turned out to be a fake, like chocolate.
Yeah.
And he ran off, and it just kind of showed like this chase scene where this human and the monkey were like escaping the police.
Yeah.
Through through this like air vehicles, air cars.
Yeah.
And then they got on like a ship. They got on a ship, put on the data disk, and they were basically going like, let's go towards our freedom. And I don't know, the cutscene, it was pretty, basic, your standard introductory cutscene that may or may not have like practically anything to do with the story in the end.
Yeah, but that's kind of the point. It was just a cutscene. Like
it was.
Whereas the announcement, amazing, but it's like I still have no idea what the game is going to be like. Are these going to be the main characters, or is this just a side thing to just introduce the world?
Yeah. So we will see. It does, however, the announcement trailer did its job, and it seems really intriguing, and it's definitely one I will keep an eye out for.
Definitely. Same here.
Any further comments on it?
I said everything.
I didn't see much of that one either. I missed
the monkey said the F word a lot, like almost like the only word he would know. But again, that's a minor gripe. It's like
it's just a characterization type of thing.
Yeah, it's for me. It's like usually when it gets to for me, like I don't mind swearing, but it gets to a moment like, is that all you know? And I felt like it was kind of forced. But again, that's a minor gripe with me, not against the game or anything else.
All right, and the final game, which is actually one that Quindle and I were both super excited for, Skull and Bones.
Yeah, this one, I will disclose, after a long day of work, I fell asleep during, so I know nothing but only the title.
I watched this, and I was drooling over it, because
what was this one?
This is the one where you're pirates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the ship-based one, and it's basically, they take the ship-based mechanic, which was everybody's favorite part of Black Flag.
Yeah.
Everybody preferred that portion of it, and so they made a game based around entirely that.
Which for me, like, I'm still a member. They were sending out a survey asking that. Like, would you be interested in something like this?
I remember that now. I'd forgotten about that.
So everyone thought, is there going to be Assassin's Creed base game? And then everyone got disappointed when further Assassin's Creed games didn't include something like that. Now seeing this, that hit me. It's like, I remember when they were asking for that. This is what they're probably asking it for.
Yep, and I'm so pleased they did, because it looks amazing. The Black Flag really kind of introduced like a proper ship game, using like the pirate era type of ships.
Yes.
Galleons and stuff like that. And it's cool too, because it's going to be multiplayer. You can form like pirate fleets essentially, and to accomplish your goals. And
we already have a group with a game called Guns of Icarus, which I think is going to be...
it's not everyone on the same ship. It's actually each person is in charge of their own ship.
Really?
Yep. It's not everyone on one ship.
Yes.
You thinking about a different game?
No, I'm thinking of Skull and Bones.
You're probably thinking of Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. God damn it.
Yeah.
That one's one.
That one looks good too. But
we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But Skull and Bones, it looks really good. I'm really looking forward to it. And Assassin's Creed, basically Assassin's Creed ship style combat, just multiplayer, and I'm so looking forward to that. I do hope that there is a single player story to it, because I'm not too fond of multiplayer only games, with the exception of like MMOs.
Mm-hmm.
But multiplayer only games where you have to do matchmaking, they can be fun, but I get bored of them pretty quick. I like my single player experiences.
It's usually, if there's no goal, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. So that does it for Ubisoft.
Yes.
We'll just continue on with the third-party developers and then go to the main three.
Yeah.
So next up would be Bethesda. And Jesse, I imagine you will probably have the most to talk about here.
Yeah, well, mostly just kind of like, I loved how Bethesda presented themselves. Like, basically what they did is just basically they showed, basically kind of like a clip show, and they didn't have very much people. There wasn't like a presenter, just other than the beginning and the end. But the one thing I loved, though, they just did it through like, oh, welcome to Bethesda Land. And as we're all in our Discord server, I immediately said, like, part of me is like, wouldn't it be awesome if they just said they weren't making any games, they were making an actual amusement park? Like, I just thought that would just, for me, it's like, yes, it would be great. I'm pretty sure I can imagine, like, only in, like, California or Florida, like, it would be up, like, somewhere, It
would be, no, actually, it would probably be in their home country.
Yeah, or something.
Bethesda's they're a European-based company.
Yeah, it would be like, it would be anywhere, Sweden. It would be anywhere but where we want, essentially. So, but I know, like, that was just a fun idea when they presented it. So, the first, one of the first things they showed off were the Quake Champions, which for me, like, I already knew about Quake Champions because I did have access to the closed beta, which I now can talk about because it was lifted where people can now talk about it. And with my experience of Quake Champions, it's just a Twitch-based shooter to a point where, for me, as a person who's casually, big first-person shooter fan, but casually plays it, I get killed way too fast. But it's one of those things where I'm just a casual first-person shooter. Like, I'm not knowing how I died so quick. I am not learning any skills of my choice. All I only know is I'm walking into a room, I see a person, and the next thing I know is I see my own entrails on the floor. So it's just one of those things that were just basically hyping up, like, it was just like, esports, and it's been like, this is Quake has been a part of the industry for years, so this is how it's very important, and for me, it's like, I see where you're getting at, but I just could not get into Quake Champions, mainly in the aspect of dying way too quickly and not learning anything. Like, this is just a game where it's just like, I want to like it, but I just can't see myself playing for long hours other than just getting frustrated.
The way I saw it was kind of like a more EA Sports serious, balanced version of Overwatch. Granted, Quake has been a major part of esports for practically the conception of esports.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the gameplay looked very similar to, like, Overwatch. Granted, it could be
except
argued
everything
that
is going 200 times faster.
Yeah, it could be argued that Overwatch kind of borrowed its resource from Quake, but, that doesn't matter. But if you don't need a visual of kind of what it's about, think of that with more grittier tones, and the system is a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, and also to comment Total Biscuit, it's like how he made the comment, it's like how they were presenting, it's like, it was like they were showing it off to investors, not gamers. Like how showing, like kind of presenting it in a way like how important Quake is, and like how it's like, like how intense it is for esports and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, for gamers, no duh. But I imagine, like, it was just to them all, like, they were, I do share the same opinion as Total Biscuit when he said that. It's like, yeah, it seemed like they were not presenting to gamers on that one. So that one I was not too impressed with. But the next two, which I'm just basically going to combine, was basically Fallout 4 VR and a Doom VR.
Yep.
Which we speculated, are these just expansions, or are they full-on new games?
And so far from what we're seeing, like, on Steam, you can already pre-order. It looks like full games, so you'd have to re-buy it again.
Yeah, at $60.
At $60.
And I remember way before we even knew about that price, me and Mike described like what we think would be a fair price, and is it kind of the idea? Like,
I would like. So I already have Fallout, and I now have a VR. So yes, that's very tempting, even at full price. But I don't think I would get it, just because if they offer some sort of a discount for somebody that already owns it, or an upgrade or something. I mean, I can see paying $20.
Yeah, like we were saying, like we felt $20 was fair for like a VR experience, because VR is not played for like long periods of time.
I wonder though if they would include it in the season pass. Because I do
Doubt it. Doubt it.
I doubt it. My counter argument for that, though, is that these two games would really be the first major, like, actual, like, AAA titles.
Second or third, because there was
the Unspoken was made.
No.
Yeah, that was made by AAA Studio.
Oh yes, but no. What's
Yeah, but it wasn't exactly
Resident Evil.
Resident
Evil was in my like for my kind of consciousness as far as like mainstream VR games, that seemed to be like one of the biggest, first AAA titles.
Yeah, they were showing that off in VR before they said, "Oh yeah, you can play it normally."
Yeah.
So the VR was heavily promoted, but it was just interesting with those. Like, one thing I like Doom, I was like, "Oh heck yeah, that's Doom is like power fantasy, so that'd be kind of cool." And I just like, no, it's gonna probably be very hectic. But my one thing I just wanted to see, like when we saw out the Fallout 4, the kind of thing, and so like how you just maneuver around, it's like I immediately thought I will get sick playing that game because it's one of those things where it just shows you just free movement, rather than when Doom it showed there was a clear like teleport ability, which has been the best way when you go in those maneuvering games. Those help.
I don't know. I haven't had issue with that too much because I got a VR system, I got an Oculus, and I've been playing quite a bit.
Honestly, I think the preferred option for all of this would be to have it where you could choose.
Yeah.
A teleport-based system or free movement-based. Because there are people who would be perfectly fine with the free movement-based, Their sense of vertigo is the sense that, fine, they can be stationary and, have
not
their...
vertigo, but yeah.
Well, it's a balancing issue. It's a sense of balance.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Yeah. As for me, like, I would definitely have trouble playing Fallout 4 if it's only free movement, because I played games similar to that where it's just, moving forward and I immediately get ill. Because it's just my brain. It's like, my character's moving forward, my body isn't.
Yeah, so your body just kind of like rejects it, kind of.
Yeah, so I just feel ill. So that's why I know, like, unless there's... Again, the only way to know is actually playing it, but other than that, it's just like that.
It's not included in the Bethesda, and it wasn't mentioned in the Bethesda E3, but should we mention the Skyrim VR? Because it's part of it's Bethesda VR thing, so...
Yeah, might as well mention it.
During the PlayStation conference, they announced Skyrim VR, and so they're basically just bringing their entire current lineup, with the exception of Dishonored, basically to VR. And so it's neat that there's like a company like Bethesda is so wholly like behind VR, and that they're really putting like 3 major titles all coming out for VR system. Now granted, the Skyrim VR, as far as we know, has only been announced for the PlayStation VR, whereas Doom and Fallout have been announced for the for the
Vive.
For the Vive.
Yeah,
the Vive probably will work for the Oculus as well. With the addition of the Oculus Touch.
Yeah, because they're almost mutually compatible because the control systems are almost identical.
Nowadays they are.
Yeah.
Now they are, yeah, I know.
Yeah. And also I'm glad you mentioned Dishonored, because I realized that was one thing I missed on my list was it was going to be basically a Dishonored standalone coming out. Then, of course, I don't know the exact name, but again, they basically showed off. It looked to be a new character. It was
He's not a new character. He's a character that's been in there since the inception of the series. That
the African American lady with like the laser eye.
Oh no!
That's a new character.
Yeah, that's a new character. Sorry, I was thinking of the like Mysterious Man that basically.
No, the Mysterious Man. No, he's been there since the very beginning.
Yeah, and it's basically seems to be a story resolution regarding him, which honestly I'm kind of glad they acknowledged that, because that was kind of a. There's this guy here. What is his deal? Why am I never learning about him?
Yeah.
Granted, I haven't actually played Dishonored 2, so I don't know if he's mentioned in that one.
Yeah, same here as well.
But I do know that in like Dishonored 1, he's just there. He's just kind of this omnipotent, mysterious figure who is vague and gives you like clues, but seems threatening at the same time. It's weird.
Yeah.
But
and of course, the one that that's again very much about Skyrim for the Nintendo Switch. But the main thing that got me hyped for it, which is again very minor, when they showed that you can use the Joy-Cons for motion controls. Now, granted, I know they're not going to be 1-to-1. I just pretty sure it's just like you flick your wrist and you'll swing your sword or do your shield. But in the end, like I just found that like, oh my gosh, they're actually doing it, and followed the moment I saw Amiibo support. As an Amiibo hunter, immediately thought, oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking
Now, granted, they only showed one amiibo compatibility with it, and that is the Link
Breath of the Wild
Breath of
Link.
the Wild, the Breath of the Wild Archer Link amiibo.
Yeah, and they just showed off, like, in the game, you saw the the hero armor from Breath of the Wild, and the Hyrulean shield, and Master Sword. So, it's like, to me, that's just fun. Like, so it's an official thing in the Skyrim world.
I'm kind of hoping that the big guy isn't...
The Guardian?
The Guardian. Oh, jeez. Just like a Dwemer version of the Guardian.
Oh my god, they could totally do it. That's scary. A Dwemer Guardian.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that we're just like, now it's like, gosh, what other amiibos
Bethesda, don't watch this. I mean, do.
Yeah.
But... although, to be honest, I would be so happy if they did include a Dwemer Guardian. Because while terrifying, it adds like an additional level of, hey, here's something special for the Switch users for a 4-year-old game.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things I know a lot of, at least for us, we just debate, would we buy, Skyrim for the Switch? Well, for me, I love the idea of a portable Switch, and the one thing I kind of realized is it's just one of those things where, since it is a portable system that has a sleep feature, the one thing I'll absolutely love, instead of just like, I can just sleep on, sleep off, and continue exactly where we're off, instead of just waiting for the title sequence, pushing start, waiting for the loading screen.
Yeah.
Then I'm in the world. And this one's like, boom, world.
And they did show that it is the enhanced edition that is coming to the Switch, so...
Yeah, all the DLC.
Yeah, so all the DLC, all that is going to be in it. And they're just adding a few little like Nintendo's brand, bells and whistles to it. So
yeah,
the only two things they announced were the Amiibo support and the Hero's Tunic for the Dragonborn. But
and then of course the motion controls as mentioned.
Yeah, and the motion controls. So I'm actually much more intrigued to actually get it because they're including additional features such as the motion controls and all that.
It's not just a port.
Yeah, it's not.
If it was just a port, would not be interested.
Yeah, pretty much. But
I wonder if they'll include the HD rumble so you can finally feel the sweet rolls.
You can feel the weight of the sweet rolls.
Oh my god!
And all the cheese wheels that you steal.
Yes.
Yeah, and the one thing I love, which
sorry, one last thing.
Go on.
I wonder if in stealth the controllers will vibrate when you are spotted. No, wait.
Or like as the eye get bigger.
Honestly, probably the HD rumble will just rumble when the same reasons why the controllers.
I don't think that's really going to be incorporated for the HD rumble. I don't see any practical use for it. Well, lockpicking perhaps.
Maybe.
Oh, that'd be neat mechanic.
Be able to feel when you're getting near the edge.
I really hope they open up modding support for it. I mean, console mods are really a pain in the ass. I mean, if they
are doing that like modding.
Yeah, glad you mentioned that. Excellent segue to the next segment. It's basically, Bethesda basically open up a Bethesda workshop. I forget the exact name, but it's basically a way for basically as a further into it, or more research on it. It's basically, yes, it is, which a lot of people say like, yeah, it's going to be paid mods, but the thing is, these modifications to these games, you're working directly with Bethesda.
Yeah, they will work. They will be 100% compatible and not cause any issues.
And it's one of those things where it's like, and most likely these are not going to be like mods, like, going to be like cheats, of course. They're most likely, because they showcase, like, there was like dwarven armor on a crab.
That's real?
Yeah, they showcased, a crab wearing armor.
They did.
So it's like one of the moment where it's like, I imagine it's going to be stuff like that, and it's just one of those things like, yeah, the person is going to be paid percentage, and I know like a lot of people hate the idea of paid mods, but it's just like,
at the same time, it does offer a bit of a kind of a segue into potential game developers that want to experiment with mods first before jumping into their big indie games.
Like for me, if I was making something outside from just pure, experimenting with my own, it's like, wouldn't you want to get paid for it?
Yeah, honestly, I can actually see the appeal to it. Granted, paid mods, people are iffy about it, but there are some mods that were like, if they were a paid version, honestly, they should be paid. Like, for example, Farsky is a mod for Skyrim, which basically it's practically an entire DLC pack on its own. It's amazingly well done, and honestly, it honestly deserves to be put on, a paid mod type of thing because of how much work and effort the developer put into it.
Yeah.
So those kind of things, I could understand, paying, $5 for, it's not that big of a deal. Stuff like armor for crabs, I'm not going to pay anything for that, that'd be something I'd be like, I don't care about installing anyways for free,
Yeah, and it's just like kind of thing where just I've gone into debates with people, it's like, yeah, but they could just add a donate button. It's like, when's the last time you thought about donating to someone who offered mods?
Yeah. Seriously, you don't I see donate options in the Nexus all the time. It's something I skip over.
Yeah, it's
honest.
just
it's not clearly
because you just want the mod and once you get it, you're done. It's just it's just like kind of like one of those things where it's like I know for me like definitely take for granted. It's just like the idea of mods are free, and so I was like kind of like yay, thank you, and so I'll use the mod, and just even like again going back in Total Biscuit, he even asked people one of the people that is in charge of Nexus, and he even asked how many people donate. It's like insignificant amount, like not even worth talking about.
Yeah.
So it's just the idea. I know there's kind of the idea like no paid mods, and it's like well like once I heard it's working with Bethesda, you're not gonna see like people putting the $100 potato mod on there like they did when Steam tried doing it. When people just basically like, and also people stealing stuff from the Nexus and saying, oh, I made this and making money on there. It's like, there's going to be some control.
Yeah. And that's something I quite approve of. It sounds like the kind of thing where, Bethesda will largely work with the developers and basically work for compatibility with most of the other mods. Granted, it is literally impossible to have full compatibility across all mods. Literally impossible. There are conflicting mods that use the same resource pack, to accomplish their goal, and it can't do two things at once.
No, it cannot.
So granted, Bethesda may try their best, say, all right, here's an additional resource you can try to use, which sounds cool because it sounds like they may just very well include SKSE, Skyrim Script Extender.
Yeah.
To assist the mods, basically Bethesda may extend their own script even more to allow for more compatibility for more mods.
Yeah, I think we've been on the subject a little too long, though. Let's move on.
Okay. Yeah, so the one that got me hyped, Wolfenstein 2. Oh boy, as a first-person shooter who, I'm currently replaying Wolfenstein: A New Order because that's just...
It's on sale right now, and I've been very tempted to get it.
Oh, please.
It does look good.
Please, it is so good you won't regret it. It is it's one of those games that not only is a power fantasy, it's one of those surprisingly good animations, very good story. It's basically the story.
I would, but I don't have the money for it.
Either way, so it's just like basically showcasing, basically new weapons. The laser gun is back. Like recruiting, the characters are back. It's like, and just like and I just loved how they showed it off. They did like a Lassie parody with like the mechanical like dog at the beginning.
Oh yeah, that was amusing.
And like a German or else a game show, and it's like for me like the moment I saw German or else was like Wolfenstein. Like that was the dead giveaway.
Because at first it was just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
old
for me,
retro TV show style. It's just like, what is this? Is that another Fallout thing?
Yeah,
maybe?
I felt terrible because once I saw the mechanical dog, that for me who played the previous games, that should have been a dead giveaway, but it didn't. And just like showcasing like all you can mostly you can do with like showcasing the weapons, all that. It's like it's like it was just in that moment. It's like it was just right after that trailer. Re-downloading the New Order, replaying that thing.
He didn't even wait till the end of the trailer.
It's like re-downloading.
It was. So I would totally get it, but no money.
Yeah.
But birthday is coming up.
If anything, borrow it from my library.
That's true. I can just borrow it.
Yeah, save 35 gigs on your hard drive. You won't regret it.
I have a new hard drive that's completely empty. I
Like
think
I-
I have the space.
Okay.
I have been moving games over to that new hard
Yeah.
drive I have
So
as well.
that's how they, how they ended, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
Now we are moving on to our final hour, the main 3.
Yeah. Now Bethesda did have one other game, Within Evil, or
Yeah, Evil Within, but
Evil Within,
we
but-
just went nope.
yeah, nope. Yeah. So we'll start with Xbox. Now, Xbox, I liked their format, but they didn't have anything.
Oh yeah, can I just add one thing? The reason we're saying no because we're not horror fans.
No.
And the only comment I have is looks like don't trust liquids because they showcase where it's like there are liquefied enemies that could pop out between liquid, and it's like okay, not playing it.
Yeah.
so anyways, we're not noping because we hate it. Just we're not horrors. Anyway, moving on.
Did you just call us not horse? I mean, we're not.
I mean, if you want to be one, Mike, follow your
God
dream.
knows I try. But women don't look my way, okay?
You do you, Mike. You do you. Okay, so Microsoft, so a big core of it was the unveiling of the Xbox Scorpio, or the stupidly named Xbox One X, and it's a neat little the abbreviations for it. It spells Xbox.
Yes.
Xbox One X. So it spells Xbox. Neat little thing there, but the naming convention of it. Now, we'll get to the specs later. The naming convention, I have to say this. They learn nothing from the Wii U.
Yeah.
It is a terrible naming convention, especially after they just released, or are going to be releasing soon, the Xbox One S. And the Xbox One, the X, is coming out this fall, right around Christmas time. Now, any parents who go to the store without their kids being there to tell them which one is which will go to the store, know their kid wants an Xbox One SX, they sound similar. Look, they see 2 consoles. They see the X, $500. They see the S, $250. Which do you think they will buy? Especially when the clerk at the store tells them, yeah, they both play the same games. This one just has a little bit higher graphics.
Yeah, it's more 4K support.
More 4K support. And it's like, your parents are going to see that, and the clerk's going to tell them it supports the same game with 4K. Parents aren't going to care about 4K. Or, unless they already know what that means. Yeah. Most, they don't. Yeah. If I told my mom, for example, hey, get the Xbox One X, she sees 2 systems, and she learns that one is like 4K. What the hell is 4K? I don't care what that is.
Do you even have a 4K TV?
No, we do not. So therefore, it's a moot point anyways.
Right.
So, it's gaining more support, but not all that many people have a 4K or have the money for a 4K TV.
Yeah, and it's just the way I foresee it, that as for someone who owns the Xbox One S, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I mostly got it because once the announcement, oh yeah, it has 2 terabyte hard drive, sold. Because I was like, because when initially I got the Xbox One, when around the time when Titanfall came out, so I only have 500 gigs, and that's when I realized holy crap, the games take up a lot of space. And that was the only reason I went from Xbox One to Xbox One S.
Xbox is terrible at formatting their data.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Microsoft, fix your goddamn compressions.
Yeah, especially in even other companies
GTA 5.
Oh.
Even even most most of the games on Origin that I play, like the Battlefield games, are 50 gigs each.
Origin, EA, the devil.
Yeah, and also followed by, and also back to Microsoft, Gears of War 4 on computer, 125 gigs.
Like I said, their compression is absolute garbage. They cannot compress a game for their worth their lives.
Yes.
They need the 2 terabyte hard drive in it just to be able to support the average gamer, let alone the hardcore gamer that buys a bunch of games.
So, anyways,
mini rant over.
Yeah.
So they showed off the specs of the Xbone X,
which One of them actually said Xbone, and then
one of the game presenters actually stumbled
Marvel.
and said Xbone, and then corrected himself and said Xbox. I thought that was hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
They are aware.
But anyway, the Xbone X, they showed the specs. Admittedly impressive specs for a console. As somebody who owns a PC, a gaming dedicated PC, not so impressive. It's clear to me that it almost seems like the Xbox is slowly deriving into a cheap alternative for a computer if you cannot afford a dedicated gaming computer. The Xbox is your option. Now, granted, it doesn't have the full support. If they threw Steam on there, that'd actually be a big deal. But, it's kind of a way of, hey, Microsoft games you can play on PC or on Xbox. Well, if you can't afford a PC to play these games really nicely, get an Xbox.
Yeah.
Which, it can still run them really nicely.
Yeah.
To be fair.
To be fair, yeah. Like I said, it's a cheaper option for people who can't quite afford a gaming PC that want to play PC quality of games.
Yep.
That are made by Microsoft and third-party companies that make cross-platform games.
Yeah, and it's just that synopsis where we're just, we're making fun of the name, and it's just like looking at the specs and everything. It's like, for me, it's just and again, it's very granted, we're all PC gamers, and it's just that moment where it's like we can strongly say, like, this is for the people that are the basically Microsoft fanboys. In the sense that, they don't mind upgrading their console, or for people who not jumped on the Xbox One bandwagon at all. So it's like, as we kind of get all three of us, this is not for us.
At all. None of the games they announced were interesting that were exclusive to the Xbox.
All right, it's a nice segue. Let's talk about those games.
Yes.
They did have interesting games, that being said.
They did. They actually had quite a bit, and you included, none of them.
Again, you make a list about everything in 1 hour.
I could have tried, but I didn't think about hopping on.
Yeah.
So, here are a couple of them, and if any more pop into my mind during it, I'll mention them, but
yes.
We will miss some. They announced quite a few games. Now, granted, almost all of them are cross-platform.
Yeah.
They're either combined with PS4 and PC, or, they're just with the PC. So as primary PC gamers, Microsoft's conference was largely targeted to the PC side of us. We were not interested in the Xbox. Anyway.
On to the games, as we said.
Forza Motorsport 7. It's another Forza game. It honestly doesn't look any different from Forza Motorsport 6. Except they have newer model cars.
Yeah, and it's speaking on this, we're not fans of the series, so we can't really comment. I did play Forza. I keep forgetting which one it was that came when the Xbox One launched, but that's only because it was free for a month, and I did kinda enjoyed it. But again, it's just for me, these certain racing games, it's where it's like the best way explain it. The car controls are very tight, as in so easy to lose control. So I'm bumping everywhere in these games, so that's where it's I don't have any interest in these Forza games other than it looks really pretty. They said it's going to be in 4K, which I know only 1% of people cheered.
Yeah, and another thing is you could tell the Xbox fanboys in the audience and the press in the audience.
Yes, press are quietly taking notes as the fans are cheering.
Yep, and dramatically too, over dramatically. Anyway, Minecraft in 4K. They are basically releasing the Super Graphics Pack. Yeah,
that's what they're calling it. Super Duper Pack.
Yeah, Super Duper Pack. And it's just do we really need Minecraft in 4K? It is a blocky game.
Well, it's mostly using the ways of shaders. It's not just only making things pretty.
Granted, yes, I do see that. And it is kind of nice to be able to see those shaders and that quality of...
on a console.
On a console, yes. And it's actually, surprisingly, by Microsoft, cross-platform. They're actually turning Microsoft into a cross-platform game. They're combining it with the Switch and the PS4 versions to be one major version.
Switch,
and they're
PS4, PC, and VR. It was on there. Yeah, VR was on there.
It said
all versions.
Oh, yeah, that's it. So, yeah, and they're all getting the Super Duper Graphics Pack. which is nice, especially for that. Granted, if you have a PC, you can get mods that do that better, but again,
to your taste.
Your taste. You can get a graphics pack to your taste.
Any game though on the PC, like you can.
And that's why I have one.
Yep.
Or one.
So I was mostly once they're cross-platform because I have plenty of people who cannot get a PC. They only have console, and they always say the same thing. Hey, do you have a 360? Not anymore. And then, hey, I got the Xbox One, but I'm playing on my PC, and I don't like playing on the Xbox One anymore. Or, hey, you can get it on PS4. I don't own it on the PS4 version, so just like going to the moment. So if I could just have a way for everyone to play, and I imagine they're probably gonna have you just have your Mojang account, and that's how you link up with friends or something. That would probably solve so many problems with my friends, because it's like divided between all my Minecraft friends. Like everyone has it on everything else but PC a lot
Which
of times.
is really nice because you can take your world with you on the Switch. When you get home, get on your PC and play it on there. It's really, that is going to be very nice in that regard. So, I mean, that is a very kind of big update for that game. Another game they announced, Crackdown 3.
They got Terry Crews to promote it. Who better?
To be honest, Terry Crews is probably the...
He has charisma for miles.
His charisma is the exact type of idea that Crackdown kind of is. That kind of...
He's the hype
zany,
man.
Hype man, but zany action type,
Oh yes.
So it looked interesting. The thing is, I do not know enough about the Crackdown series as a whole to really get all that hyped about it.
Yeah, for me, I never played the Crackdown series. The only reason I know of it was, way back in the 360 age, it's just you had to get Crackdown to play the Halo 3 beta.
God, way back in the 360 days.
Yeah, that's the only reason I know of Crackdown, and followed by people like it's actually a surprisingly fun game. Crackdown 2, I heard, was just surprisingly meh, but so this looks promising, and I just when I saw Terry Crews, I was like, oh, heck yeah.
Let's see. State of Decay 2. Is that one that...
That's the zombie one. That's probably the one you were thinking of earlier.
That's the one that has the town, or
is that the
building.
You build
resource
your fort,
building.
or is that Death... No, that's not Death Stranding. No, that is State of Decay 2. That's the one that
was probably what you were thinking of when you saw
Which
A Way
for
Out.
a zombie game, being able to build a compound and resource manage and stuff, that seems really nice.
Now, one thing is that I do hope they handle it better than State of Decay 1. State of Decay 1 had, it had the same premise, but the problem is that it was so shoddy and broken upon initial release. They then had to release a DLC patch for it that you had to pay for. They ended up taking down the original game, so you can't buy it anymore, but you can still get the DLC if you own the game, because people who have the game still have it.
Yeah.
So, I hope they do better. I mean, the concept looks interesting. It's the kind of concept I could get behind, the resource management while, trying to fend off zombies and, trying to keep as many of your people alive as possible. That sounds interesting. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest game that I actually cared about was Sea of Thieves.
Yes, that's what I was trying to talk about earlier.
Yeah, this is another pirate-based game, but this one is your team on a ship. The neat thing about this is that you're not just fighting other ships. That's a big mechanic of the game, but you don't have to.
And also being developed by Rare.
Yes. It is being developed by Rare, and I'm hoping that this is indicative of a return to form. Because Rare used to be the kings of game development.
Yes, they do no wrong.
Yeah, they almost were in that golden status where everything they touched was gold. But then,
GoldenEye.
Oh, jeez.
The grandfather of the first-person multiplayer shooter.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and he was also...
well,
the game looks fun. You can be like the raiding type of pirate that attacks, other pirates and, the proper, authorities and raid them. You can go and hunt for treasure. You can basically go and just explore the seas. It's completely open, and I like that. You're basically just part of a crew. The thing I really am kind of cautious about, though, is that if you start a multiplayer crew, what happens if some of your crew just leaves? Are you just kind of stuck and have to join a new crew, or what happens in this case?
I would hope that you can either play with randoms or you can play with less people than a full crew.
You probably just make your own crew, and it's just like your friends, join it. So probably this is what I imagine. Does not actually in the game. Maybe like a clan kind of system going on.
Oh no, I hope they have AI, because it's kind of like Guns of Icarus, which is what I was trying to compare it to earlier. Where it's a multi-man cruise ship. That one's more PvP based or more like mission heavy based. This one's open world, but even if Jesse and Joey aren't on, I still wouldn't mind going around and exploring and stuff.
Now, hopping on with randos to join in like a few join in a few quick objectives for the sake of fun, that's not bad. I do that in Guns of Icarus all the time. But I mean, I imagine for the role-playing aspect of we are a pirate crew, I mean, I could just imagine quite a bit of fun to be had if we are allowed to do congruent sessions.
Yeah.
Which leads me to another thing I really, really hope they played is local hosted servers. Where you have where you can basically be on your own server and then save that server so that you can join in again.
Yeah.
Rather than a congruent open world in which you disappear, you all log off and your ship's gone, you have to basically restart when you do. We'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it. The game looks fun.
It's one we're all hopeful for.
Yeah,
yes.
We're very hopeful for.
Yes.
And also one thing they showed on the trailer, that one of the players was able to load himself in the cannon and fire himself.
Yes, that looks
so
fun.
It shows okay, this is obviously funsies.
Yeah, it's a tongue-in-cheek type of game.
And all of us are going to be talking like pirates almost the entire time. I imagine we're all going to be on Discord. It's like, you're being the one in the corner, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're right, I have to go to the bathroom, be right back.
Especially if we can stream it.
I be going to the poop deck.
And did mute yourself and leave. You're I have returned. Why is the ship upside down? Because you left us, Captain. Oh, no, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, go walk the plank.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey.
So fun to be had. Looking forward to it. They showed during a kind of scissor reel of a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Some of them looked interesting. Some of them it's just meh. One of the ones, let me think. I'm trying to think of some of the other games on there. Sadly, nothing that was on the level of Scalebound that they showed off last year.
Yeah.
That they canceled.
Yeah.
Curse them.
Curse them.
That game looked interesting. It was a good, solid first person. It was an exclusive title, and honestly would have been very good for the Xbox, but they just canceled it. Again, Lionhead Studios is gone, so no Fable, except they do have a card game MOBA for it, I think.
Meh.
Yeah, Fable's basically gone, unless Microsoft owns the rights to it and grants it to someone else, which, if Rare is back to form, if Rare is coming back, I would not be against Microsoft giving Fable to Rare and letting them play with it.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. So other than that, I can't really think of anything else on Xbox, and that was one of the conferences that I said they had to miss. So it was just one of the things I had to grasp of what was announced, and of course on top of the consoles, kind of, that was one of the biggest news. And though, partially I'm kind of grateful that it's not. First, everyone was kind of speculating if it's going to be a full-fledged new console. I was kind of hoping it wasn't, because I felt like it was kind of too soon for a new console in terms of the Microsoft aspect. And plus, because I know so many people that just got an Xbox One within weeks ago. So the idea of if they were releasing a new console, they would have been well, I just got this, so now what? So grateful it's just basically the PS4 Pro version of the Xbox line. Yeah, but other than that, we have the other big ones, because we're running out of time, dude. We can't really talk about everything.
Okay.
So we still got a bunch here. So next one was PlayStation. So this one, as me personally, I came in late.
So did I.
So this is where it's like and the first one that was on here was Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Now, as for me, it's like I personally don't have much to comment on it. I wasn't able to have any time to really look at the trailer, but what I seen of it, and this is where I gotta state this is opinion. It seems like it's not Nathan Drake focused. It seems like one of the other characters focused. Am I wrong on that?
Which one? Oh yeah, it is. I want to almost say Claire or something.
Yeah,
that sounds familiar, but it's one of the side characters, one of the major side characters, but it focuses on like the side characters of the series.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. There is one thing I do want to mention that was on Xbox that is a major title.
All right, make it quick.
The Metro Exodus.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Metro.
Yeah. So that game looks really good. It is, it's set in the post-apocalyptic Metro series, and
I haven't played any of the Metro, but that makes me want
You-
to.
I know that trailer made me want
Same
to.
thing.
And it looks,
Borrow it from my library if you can.
yeah.
I have both the original and the Redux versions. That's how much I love them.
So, yeah, that is one. And then Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Oh yeah.
Hauntingly beautiful looking game.
Oh yes.
And, it's like tragic little E3 trailer, and it's one of those, it's like, it's a 2D platformer, but God, is it beautiful. Yeah. Anyways, those are the only other two that I had that I found for it, so
yeah,
we'll ignore the others, and okay, yeah. So
the next one was Gran Turismo Sport, another racing game.
Didn't even pay attention to it.
I was late, so I didn't even see it, so I have nothing to comment on.
Same.
But this one I did come on to is Detroit Become Human.
Now, the developer for it is kind of iffy. His games have been kind of substandard.
Yes.
But the concept for this is rather interesting. You basically play this lead android in the midst of a robotic revolution.
Yes.
Basically, they want their rights. They're sick of just being servants to humans. And you're basically allowed to choose. It's kind of pick your own adventure story.
Yeah.
You pick an option, and it's more dynamic than just the Paragon Renegade kind of style.
Yeah.
But, the extremes are there, You can pick to be, a peaceful revolution, and try and lead for peaceful change. Or you can go for violent
anarchy.
Yeah, a violent, uprising. A rampant AI type of scenario.
Yeah,
and so it's interesting. The concept is very sound. I do hope it does well. It does look interesting.
Yes.
So we'll see where that goes.
And yes, it does take place in Detroit. That was one fun comment, and was like, "Is this Detroit?" And we see Detroit signs. Like, it is.
Yep. Next one is Death Stranding. And sorry we're kind of rushing through this. We talked a lot
It's going to be so difficult to talk about everything in a 2-hour show.
Well, we can always go a little bit longer. We're not exactly constrained to a time limit.
Yeah.
Plus, not to mention we have a few seconds beyond that. But anyway, Death Stranding. I'm trying to remember this one.
Same again.
Oh, I remember now. It kind of reminded me almost of a Gears of War style game.
Mm-hmm.
But with zombies instead of the locusts.
Yeah.
And the trailer they showed, basically this human leaves his safety compound to go and find a missing friend.
Yeah.
It's captured by another group of humans. And it basically just shows him sneaking past, shooting past various zombies and using various mechanics. And, it seemed interesting. Had kind of a somewhat stealth-based RPG combined with Gears of War type of style.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Kind of meh. I don't know why you brought up Last of Us 2. They didn't show a trailer for that.
It was announced.
It was announced, but I did.
It wasn't part of the showcase, I know. Again, 1 hour.
Okay.
Okay, so Spider-Man was actually the last thing they showed in the trailer. Now, granted, it's not the last thing we're talking about, but it was the last thing shown in the trailer. Basically, a kind of a Spider-Man Arkham City type of game.
Yeah,
this is the way I saw it.
Basically, you were the one to make the comment as we were watching it. It's like, so it's kind of Arkham City, and it's like, after you said that, I couldn't unsee that. Granted, that's not a bad thing. The Arkham City, the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City kind of, fun mechanics is not a bad mechanic.
No, and it actually suits very well for not only just Batman, but Spider-Man as well. I mean...
Spider Sense.
Spider Sense, it shows they actually kind of show it in a proper sense of it's like somewhat like danger sensing, which actually kind of makes sense for like the counter mechanic. That's largely what the Spidey sense is, to be honest. This kind of like preeminent, vision of there's danger. And so, it let him showcase, using the environment, and using his spider abilities and his web slingers.
Yeah. And
he was in the costume made for him by Iron Man. That was something interesting. It was the more high-tech one.
Yeah.
And so it looks interesting. Granted, I've never actually fully played the Arkham games. I've been wanting to, never got around to it. But it looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a surprise.
That was a surprise, and some people were like, "You're ending it on this," and granted, they could have ended it on a higher note. But it wasn't a bad game. Look, it wasn't bad at all. And they did show off the second Spider-Man, Miles something. I don't remember his last name.
Yeah,
Marvel fans Marvel fans in the comments will eat me alive.
Yeah,
but
I only know him as Miles.
Yeah, that's the only thing I know him as. Days Gone, which was that?
That one I have like no memory of. I just saw like list of games announced. Like, all right, we got to put this one.
Apologize, we don't know this one.
Yeah, sorry. Days Gone was one
announced. And of course,
Days Gone, done gone by us.
Yes. So, and of course, God of War.
Yes. Dad of War.
It's the only way to really call it now.
Now, granted, I am more interested in this one than I was interested in the other ones. To be honest, it focuses heavily on the
Norse?
Yeah, the Norse mythology. Sorry, had a brain fart there. And yeah, it just looked interesting. It was a more over-the-shoulder type of system rather than just kind of more similar to Skyrim versus the original. Yeah, the over-the-shoulder camera.
Yeah, that's optional.
Well, that's if you play it in third person.
Yeah, if you played it in third person, then it kind of followed that.
Who played Skyrim in third person?
I would say
more than like looking at your character and maybe walking around.
For me, I'd say more Gears of War in perspective.
Yeah.
Because you don't see your feet. It's just like third person over the shoulder, and a character in the corner kind of aspect.
Yeah. But, it looked pretty good, combat style. It looked pretty decent. He retains his God of War abilities. It just seems like he's just showing his son the world.
Yeah.
They actually didn't really show any of the gods except for one, Jormungandr, which is basically the snake which is said to sit at the base of the World Tree Yggdrasil. Mm-hmm. That is the only god they actually showed, and it almost seemed like the Jormungandr was trying to ally with Kratos, saying, "I wish to help you," rather than straight up antagonistic to all gods.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting in that regard. And it would be much more interesting if they throw in a more story aspect of just there's more of a battle between conflict between the gods rather than Kratos is just slaughtering all of them.
Right.
So if they do that
as a revenge story.
Yeah, so he doesn't really have a need to go to revenge unless something happens to his son. Which, if that happens, it'll just be like...
Everyone is banking on that. It's just like something's going to happen to him.
Yeah, I kind of hope not, because it'd be more interesting of kind of like a coming-of-age story of his son learning more about his father being the God of War, and, them learning about that. I think it'd be more interesting in that regard. And we still have time. Quit rushing us, guys. We're okay. These are the big three. Let's rush them. So
Not that Nintendo's going to take long.
Yeah, but there's one.
No, actually, Nintendo had quite a few decent announcements. But...
And the one game we are out of everything that was announced during the PlayStation 1, Monster Hunter World.
Oh, yes.
That was the one that I remember. Like, I was finishing up finishing work, and I remember Joey said immediately, "Crump, get on Discord," and that's right when I pop in. That was that announcement. So this is where I came in. Was
actually
very
made him consider buying one until we found out it's on PC.
Yeah, I don't have a PlayStation 4. It's honestly the system I'm closest to getting, but I already own the Switch. But because they actually have enough exclusive games that I'd be interested. And honestly, Monster Hunter World would have been the one to tip the scales if it were exclusive, but it's not. It's coming to PC.
It was just announced during the PlayStation conference, which I still find odd.
No, I don't. They often usually, like, most games there were, like, cross-platform, and they just chose one or two of the, of the companies to showcase it.
Yeah.
So I didn't find that really odd at all, really. It's normal. It happens all the time.
Yeah, just me personally. Just, again, like, Monster Hunter has been like mostly a Nintendo thing. So once I found out a Monster Hunter game coming out to something else, other than the PS, back then PSP and Vita.
Actually, Monster Hunter has more routinely been with Sony than with Nintendo. It's actually only been in recent years that Nintendo's gotten more of them.
Yeah, because again, it's just because I was a late adopter to Monster Hunter, so I was used to that concept.
Yeah. Monster Hunter 3U and on, it was largely Nintendo based, specifically they really liked the 3DS line. And so Monster Hunter World coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It is a far more open world game. It doesn't have the standard sections of the world that the original Monster Hunter does. Although they did say that the map system still has the numbers, even though there's no loading zones between them.
Yeah.
But the map still has its numbered sections, so you can still tell your friends, "Hey, we're chasing him over to 16," or whatever.
Yeah, all those tactical games.
Yeah, so it's nice in that regard. Also, it seems that there's a lot more emphasis on the cinematic style of how everything is portrayed. Like in the cinematics for the game, for the Monster Hunter series, they've always shown the hunters have these little pouches that they crumple up like mushrooms into. They gather honey into these jars. They carry all this gear. In the gameplay version though, it's more like they just kind of pat around the mushroom and then boom, they have the mushroom.
Yeah.
So this one seems a lot more inept. A lot more cinematic stuff, in depth. Yes.
Yeah.
Not inept.
Yeah. They also have a new grapple hook kind of system, which you can use to manipulate the environment, throw things at monsters, stuff like that.
Move around.
Yes. So move around. It looks very good, and it does make me feel a little better about another announcement Miz made, and I start to kind of segue off of it, but. They did officially announce that Monster Hunter Double Cross is not coming to the Switch in America.
Not that we can't get it anyway.
Granted, yeah, but we won't get the translation pack. We won't get it translated.
Yeah, but it's just one of the moments now the world's coming out. It's like, no need.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's okay, I feel better about it now. I can play Monster Hunter on my PC. Yes.
And also, for me, one of my favorite little announcements. You can tell we're fans of the Monster Hunter series, but one of the things that was announced, the animations after you eat and take a potion are gone. So there's no you eat and then it's or you have a potion and it's a pose. It's like that's gone. You can also do it while running. Your animation is slowed, but you can have this.
That's gonna be nice.
So there's so many moments where it's like we go to eat and your character would just do a flexing pose.
Yeah,
and like stop.
It's like you pretty much have to run practically to the next area because you take a potion, you're stuck in that stupid pose animation, and then the monster barrels over you, and it's like, well, I need the potion again.
Yeah.
So I'm glad
that was
for that.
Obviously the biggest thing come out of the PlayStation.
They did show other things. They showed a little bit more of Assassin's Creed Origins during the PlayStation conference. There was a few other announcements, but those were probably the big ones that we caught on to. sorry if we missed one that you're like, oh my god, super hyped about.
We're gonna miss some, guys.
We're gonna miss some. And honestly, these are the ones that we're primarily interested in.
Yeah.
You know, we may edit more like later on, you know, in the next podcast if we missed one that we're like, oh god, I can't believe we missed that.
And it's like, you know, like editors basically notes and anything like else.
Finally, we get to Nintendo, which was honestly the conference I was most looking forward to this year.
Yes.
It was better than I feared, but worse than I hoped, in my opinion.
And
it had a lot of good announcements, don't get me wrong. And honestly, a large portion of it was kind of what was expected.
Yeah.
Just kind of
I was
reconfirmations and stuff.
Yeah, I was just kind of worried. I was worried going into it that they were going to try to do what they did last year. You know, last year there was such a huge focus on Zelda Breath of the Wild, that's the only thing they brought. They brought some Pokemon games, but honestly, it was all Zelda. That was the only thing they cared about.
We didn't know anything about the Switch. It was just all just new Zelda coming out.
Yeah, so I was worried coming in that they would try to do that with Super Mario Odyssey. And don't get me wrong, Odyssey looks like a fantastic game, and I can't wait to get it. But it's not something I felt that they should focus entirely on. Unfortunately, they did not. They actually had quite a few announcements. One of the early ones was, of course, ARMS is coming out. Now, we've had a chance to play the
Test Fire.
The Test Fire. They called it something else, but it's
something
basically
punch.
the beta taste. The beta taste.
I like that. But I like that, though.
Yeah, there we go. We'll call it that from now on. The beta taste.
The beta taste.
It was okay. Granted, I probably was the most lukewarm to it.
You punched your Switch.
I punched my Switch.
I witnessed that, and it was beautiful.
But you know, honestly, I get the feeling I probably would have liked it a little bit more had I been standing while playing it. But I don't know. It just didn't seem like the kind of game for me.
Which is out today in terms of this recording as well.
Oh yeah.
I found odd they do a conference and it's like, it's coming out very soon.
Well, it wasn't a big concept though. They kind of like showed a few more things they're adding to it.
A new character.
And stuff like that. But for the most part, it was just kind of like, hey, reminder, this is coming out soon, Yeah. It was more
Why not throw it in?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's coming out very soon. It's like a new major IP that they're kind of banking on.
Yeah.
It's kind of the big thing until Splatoon comes out, Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, it makes sense that they know kind of cover it. They want to push it,
Yes.
And on that note, real quick, I'm gonna kind of step out of it. One thing I'm actually impressed by regarding Nintendo, most of their E3 was focused entirely on games that are coming out this year or very early next year. So Nintendo is doing this thing with the Switch in that like once every month and at best like 2 months they have a major game release.
Yeah.
And so they're keeping a steady stream of major first-party games coming. And if third-party developers release other games during that time, okay, cool. We're happy to have you. But Nintendo is fully, like, they're gunning for it. It's like, we are supporting our system, and we're supporting it hard. Which I approve of. Nintendo makes fantastic games, and that is largely, but will always been what's carried them throughout their entire career. Through their entire time in video game market, it's largely almost always been their games that have carried Nintendo.
Yeah.
And that they're focusing so much on bringing so many first-party games to it is a glorious thing.
Yes, very welcome, because I remember, for me, it's just as a Wii U owner, just loved the system, wanted more games, and still to this day, I don't think I've really got my 100% satisfaction with the system in its run.
Yeah.
And now it's like the Switch, it's like I feel like, oh yeah, this is happening. Nintendo's going out full force. There's fun to be had here.
Indeed.
I already feel I got my money's worth out of that game. Out of that system. I'm very pleased with it. Looking forward to more.
Yes.
They showed off more Mario and Rabbids.
Once again, looks like a great game.
Looks great. They revealed... They fully revealed the DLC for the first DLC for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
And the one thing I want to comment, Nintendo, as an amiibo collector, have mercy. My goodness. It was like...
You already have our money, damn it!
It's like a new... Like, now all the amiibos of the Breath of the Wild champions. 2 new amiibos coming for... for the Metroid. And it's like... God. It's, for me, like, as, the guys can see, like, my desk is covered with amiibos. It's getting to this moment where now it's like... Not only do I barely have room for them now, it's getting to the point where it's like, my paycheck hates you, Nintendo! Where it's like... You're locking away content that I want, and now it's like I have to buy so many of the guys.
God, I know. I mean, it's cool that these Parental just got, like, jumped off as much as they did, and Nintendo's no doubt thrilled at how popular Amiibos are, but god damn you!
It's getting to the moment where it's just like, I understand, like, when Super Smash Bros. Ones, all the variety of the characters makes sense. Now it's like all the franchises ones, and
just
it's
wait
like...
till they finally announce the Switch Smash Brothers. When they finally get around to making that,
yeah, that's also one thing that a lot of people were banking on the announcement, like for the Switch port of the Super Smash Bros. Ones. But I do want to comment like something I didn't realize until Pro Jared said it. If they do that, no new characters will be coming out other than what's already been released. It would basically be a deluxe, release.
And actually, Reggie made a comment about that kind of thing. The thing is that. Nintendo was actually looking quite heavily into bringing more Wii U games to the Switch because they've had pretty amazing success and like good reviews in doing so far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, though, is that they're looking into it, but they're like being hesitant of just opening the floodgates on that.
Yeah. Because
of one thing, they don't want to do just straight ports. If you notice, every game that they are porting from the Wii U to the Switch, they're adding things. Mario Kart got 20cc and,
200.
No, 200 EC, sorry.
It's a 20?
20 EC, jeez.
Wow, even slower.
Yeah. You are going at a snail's pace.
The computer players are not even moving at the finish line.
But, yeah, so, they added that. They also added Battle Mode, which is probably which probably helped it be the biggest, fastest selling Mario Kart game ever.
Because that was left out in the original.
Yeah,
and then all the DLC... And all the DLC and stuff was included.
Yeah. So, it was everything, it was basically the Game of the Year edition with extras.
Yeah.
More DLC.
Yes.
Sweet. It makes it worth it. And then Pokken Tournament coming out.
Yeah, DX coming out.
The DX, which they're adding more characters, which is honestly probably the thing that it was missing the most. It had a very limited character lineup. Having more Pokemon fighters, it may make it look more interesting. I may actually consider getting it now with the additional characters they're adding.
Yeah.
Back to... so, anyway, but the thing is they're just hesitant to just release straight ports.
Yeah.
So, honestly, another thing I read a thing on is that someone doubted that they will do just a straight port of a Smash Brothers game.
Yeah.
That they, like Nintendo, every single console generation since the Smash Brothers inception has had a new Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt Nintendo will break that trend now.
Yeah.
Granted, whether or not Sakurai will be the one developing or directing it, it's up in air. He's been kind of wanting to leave the series for a while now.
They can still make Smash Brothers and use the amiibos because some of those characters are going to be in even a brand new one. In fact, a majority of them are.
Oh yeah,
and yes, you may not be able to use some of the other ones, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
back Breath of the Wild DLC, the Master Trials and Hero and what is it?
Ballad of the Champions.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like the hard mode. Hard mode essentially.
Just hard mode.
No, it's actually called something like Master Trial or something. I don't remember. No, it's not titled hard mode. I actually recall like seeing it. It's actually listed.
I know, but yeah,
but
it is a hard mode.
So, Master Trials, it's really cool. It's basically a way to level up the Master Sword after you get it. I won't spoil anything about it, but you can level it up.
The Master Sword's in the game. Spoiler.
Yeah. I'm talking about like the ways of getting it.
Yeah.
But it's this trial that you go through, and the thing is that the neat thing is that when you enter it, it takes away everything: your armor, your food, your materials, your weapons. Mm-hmm. Everything is gone. And so you basically have to clear the entire dungeon with the stuff you pick up in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Yes.
And hard mode is, well, basically just that. The monsters get scaled up a class. And they added a new class of monster. The golden class.
Yeah.
And
Because
they're
the white
all
ones
golden.
were already a pain in the ass.
God, silver Lynels were already a bitch. Golden Lynels, oh god, they're just going to be meat grinders for your swords.
Although I don't have an issue with finals anymore.
No, but the thing is that the first time I met a silver Lynel, it surprised me with its fire blast attack where it
Yes.
blew up. I'm wondering, it's like, what are Goldens going to do to me?
Anyway,
Anyway,
let's get to the rest of these because we are near the end.
okay, yeah, we're nearing the end. The Champions Ballad, they just showed off the champions and their amiibos.
We have no
Nothing
clue.
else. We don't know. Are we going to be able to play as them? Which
That'd
would be
be
cool.
nice.
Are we going to... Is it just going to be story content where Link gets more memories of the champions?
Maybe play through some memories?
You know, yeah, maybe play through some memories. Is it going to be like a revival quest where you try and revive the champion? No one knows.
Right.
Probably the thing that got the most hype out of the entire conference was a title. And that was it. Metroid Prime 4 was finally announced and people freaked.
Mainly because it's something that was asked for years, and if they didn't show anything, they just said Metroid Prime 4. They first just showed the number 4, and then slowly the title showed Metroid Prime 4 in the works.
Yep. At
That
first
was
it just showed this like Starfield, and then it kind of formed that like Metroid Prime, Metroid S symbol,
Yeah.
and then the number 4 overlaid it, and then Metroid Prime. And the internet freaked, and they were big fans. Granted, I have never played a Metroid Prime game. I've heard they're a fantastic series. And I know a lot of fans of the series were worried that the series was just dead.
Yeah.
And they were quite upset when Nintendo pulled the plug on...
That fan game?
yes, a fan game, another Metroid 2 reboot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I still have. I got it before they removed it, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, AMTR. But they revealed why they pulled the plug on that so quickly. They're making their own.
Yep.
Metroid Samus's Return for the 3DS. And it looks pretty good. It looks,
yes.
it's a very decent side-scrolling action game. Proper formula for the Metroid games. Let's see. Pokemon. They, reaffirmed the Pokemon
It's working.
Pokken Tournament DX. And then they announced there's an untitled Pokemon RPG, a main core title Pokemon game in the works for the Nintendo Switch. Since then, there have been some, pre-order pages on Amazon listing Pokemon stars, but most consider that just to be a error. You know?
Yeah, and even a couple of times where they showcase the, after the Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon ones came out,
God,
and
there was so stupid.
And
Yeah.
they listed at some point it says was on the Switch, and then that was an error as well. So therefore, I'm glad they came out and said that, hey, we are working on a Switch game.
It's just not going to come for a while.
And it was just from with the Pokemon creator just
At
saying,
least they
hey,
announced
it's in the works.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Those
they at
were,
least announced
yeah,
something.
Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon are pretty much the only two that are future dated events. We don't have an exact time frame, or even if it'll be in 2018, we don't know.
Yeah.
But for so those are probably the only two they didn't announce that have a definitive release date.
Yeah. One game I just realized I forgot to put on there: new Kirby coming out.
Ah, yes, the new Kirby for the Switch, and God, they have been overdoing that franchise recently.
And it looked like it has co-op, which I'm absolutely for because that was there was one. I forget the name of it, but it was one Kirby that had 4-player on the Wii. Played it once, was absolutely fun, but it was one of those games never went on sale and then became hard to find. I'm like, dang it! So it's one of those games where now here's my chance.
Yeah. Okay, then next is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Xenoblade Chronicles. It's a major RPG series for Nintendo. It's
a great RPG that almost no one played.
Yeah, until they re-released it on the 3DS, then it got more attention.
Yeah, because for me, originally when Xenoblade came out, I came up with the idea of I'll get it when it gets on sale. Then it became a hard to find game because it sold very poorly, and I was like,
no, it sold very well. They just didn't make that many of them.
Yeah, and it got to that moment where if you wanted one, go on eBay, buy it for $100.
Yep. So
So
I never actually got around to playing Xenoblade Chronicles X. I am saddened by this. I wish I could.
Same here.
It looked fantastic, to be honest. This game looks, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It looks very good, but it looks kind of like like it crossbred itself with a Tales game.
Yes.
This is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I love the Tales franchise, and I do know it is also being co-produced by Bandai Namco.
Which would explain.
Which would explain it. They're the producer. They're the makers of the Tales of series. So it looks pretty good. It looks very good, actually, and so I'm looking forward to that. Surprisingly, they reaffirmed it for this year, holiday 2017.
Oh yes.
This actually surprised a lot of people because when they announced it during the Switch release event, there's no way you can make that within the time frame and have it be good. But they showed off some gameplay of it. It looked fairly well polished for its current status. So, holiday 2017, Nintendo seems pretty set on that. So,
yeah,
I'm honestly surprised. I do hope they're not starting to get into the habit of rushing games in their drive to fill the Switch.
Yeah,
I mean, Nintendo, I understand your desire to make sure we have games. You're doing great so far, but please do not start rushing games. That is the one thing, like, Nintendo fans are, like, held up as a badge of honor of, like, yes, Nintendo doesn't rush their games. Nintendo makes sure they work.
Yep.
So, do not change that. I would rather have a delayed but polished game versus a rushed and buggy game.
Yeah.
So that's my take on that. But as long as they have the proper polish, for all we know, they've had this in development for like years, but they've just been kind of showing little bits of it at a time.
Yes.
So I may be completely wrong on that. I hope I am.
Yeah. We feel the passion, man. We see the fire in your eyes. I'm ready to grab a bucket of water right now because those eyes are scaring me.
And it's warm.
Wow, God, you spiked it.
So
Good work with that, future Jesse.
Okay, so one game you didn't actually put on here, Fire Emblem Warriors.
Yes.
Fire Emblem Dynasty Warriors crossbreed.
It fits.
It really does. Fire Emblem is one of those game franchises that it really does fit you leading an army with these characters. It truly does. And it seems like they're pulling the major heroes of the series from the big three that I noticed were Marth, the Awakening group, and the Fates group.
Yeah. So again, like for me, that's my only fear is just with with Fire Emblem is it looks like they're gonna like the beginning of the series, then the newest ones, no in between.
Yeah,
that's a fear that I'm gonna see. It's just
I hope they include people like Roy, Ellawood, Lynn, Hector, all those characters from the Ike, from the GameCube Wii Fire Emblems.
Yeah,
Path of Radiance.
Yeah, but I have confidence they will include more heroes because I remember when Hyrule Wars came out, the amount of heroes in that game. Good God.
Yeah, I did not expect. Like Jesus Christ, they included the Bug Girl, Agatha.
And Tingle.
So it's like,
to
be honest, there's always been like a weird fascination with the Zelda fans and Tingle.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just funny though. It was originally an April Fool's joke, then became real.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. So I have full confidence that Fire Emblem, when Fire Emblem Warriors comes out, they will have a selection. They're not just going to have just, the 4 that they showed off at the beginning. Like, I'm pretty sure they're going to include some. Granted, some most likely to be DLC, but I do not care because there's, like I said, I just cannot wait for that one because it surprisingly fits within the Fire Emblem series. As speaking from a Fire Emblem fan, it looks great.
Yeah. Now, it does, and the Warrior Dynasty Warrior kind of style fits very well. Like I said, with Fire Emblem, it's Fire Emblem's largely a strategy game where it's implied you're leading an army. Well, no, you're leading an army. It fits pretty well. They had 2 more games. One of them we already talked about, Samus Returns, and the other one was Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is getting a remake.
Yes.
On the 3DS, and it's also getting a little mini, like a mini thing, Bowser's Minions. And honestly, this is kind of a little like game mode that I'm surprised hasn't had its own game, and may actually if it does well.
Yeah.
It basically, you take control of Bowser's army, and you're trying to track down Bowser. And basically, you're playing through this like little campaign, leading like Bowser, like a bunch of Goombas or Bowser's minions. This sounds ridiculously fun in concept.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's like, Nintendo, I'm surprised you haven't done this before.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we never asked for this. Now that we see this, we're surprised we never asked.
Yeah.
It's like one of those kind of game concepts.
It looks fun, it looks intriguing, and yeah, again, it's a remake, but Nintendo is adding new thing to it, so it's not just a flat remake, which I approve of Nintendo's stance on this. You know, adding new things to their older games to freshen them up, you know, so that it's not just, hey, this game did fairly well, let's add it again and hope people buy it. No, let's, you know, we appreciate you spending money on this again. Here's a little bonus for your effort, you know, a little more.
They're not pulling an Activision here.
Yeah.
You hear that, Activision? Calling you out! Fight me!
They'll win.
Dang it! I was waiting for that moment.
And their big reveal, or well, not really a reveal, the big game they talked about, Super Mario Odyssey. It looks fun. It looks really fun. Yeah. It's their newest 3D Mario game, and it has a very interesting mechanic where you possess things with this hat.
Yeah, and that's how you get your powers, is through who you get with this supposed hat.
Yes. And at one point it looked interesting because it looked like a top hat that was like a Boo, kind of.
Yeah.
You know? And then it kind of like ate Mario's hat and became his hat, you know?
Yeah. And
so it's rather interesting. But the trailer opened with, it showed just this dinosaur walking in this like cartoony animated style landscape. And we're just like, What? What is this? And then it's like, we saw the glimpse of red on the top of the T-Rex, and it's like, what?
My favorite one is I was watching a live stream and someone commented, Yoshi, you've changed so much. So, and that's one thing I found funny, like I was kind of like showing, I'm just kind of surprised, and one thing I'm kind of grateful, like you're showing a lot of interest is, because I remember last time we talked about our Odyssey, it's like, you showed, it just looked like the hat becomes an extra platform, I'm not that interested in it. So seeing this side of you now, it's like, wow.
So, the thing is that before they didn't really show, I mean, honestly, I was kind of put off by the Mario in New York.
Yeah, I remember you were strongly on that, and it's like, oh, what's happening? Now, I don't like this as the hub world, and it's like, now
it's very clear. It's basically a kind of a Donkey Kong inspired city, actually.
Yeah, it's called Donk City.
It's New Donk City. The street names are named after the Kongs. There's various signs and stores and stuff like that are all references to the Donkey Kong series.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they're gonna reference
Pauline.
Well, I think I saw her.
She's in it.
Yeah, she's in it.
Yeah. Okay. Then you think they'll add in like a mini game or something? Donkey Kong, Skyscraper, Mario has to go up it.
Oh, yes! I would love if there's a little thing where like they take Pauline, or Donkey Kong, or like a Kong ancestor takes Pauline, and Mario has to ascend the skyscraper to get her back. That would be a wonderful nod.
Gosh, now it's back one of those things we never asked for, but now that we think about it, we want now.
Yeah. Now, I won't be disappointed if they don't do it. I will say missed opportunity, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Overall, the mechanics of it just looks fun. It looks like a very well drawn out 3D Mario game.
Yeah, it looks like, and the one thing kind of cool though was like it wasn't just he just had his hat. It was also he looked like wearing donning different costumes, which later found out there were callbacks to Mario's of the past. Like there's one in bakery outfit, Yoshi's Cookie. There's one point he's wearing a striped shirt. Golf. Another one, was in a Mexican outfit. It's like some kind of Game & Watch game. It's like, holy crap. Callbacks to other Marios as his outfits.
They're being that nostalgic, they probably will allude to the Mario.
Yep.
The original Donkey Kong games, just like the
Yeah.
city's named that.
There are a couple of more announcements I did want to include real quick before we sign off. We're pretty much at the end here. That's pretty much all the games they announced at E3. There are a couple of other announcements by Nintendo that I did want to include. Now, it may seem like we're heavily emphasizing Nintendo. I'm a Nintendo fanboy. Sue me. Fight me. Damn it.
No way. I got Activision. You wait your turn.
All right. So, one thing is that they are very much aware that people want the Virtual Console.
Mm-hmm.
And they did make sure to emphasize that... Okay, so Nintendo announced how their online services are going to be. Mm-hmm. Eminently fair. Like, very well priced.
Yes.
I was surprisingly pleased with their pricing.
$20 for a year?
$20 for a year. And granted, I mean, I'd like it if it were free, but they have to make money on their servers somehow. Paying for the servers will ensure that they can put more money towards the servers.
Yeah.
So
Indeed.
I am not going to complain about $20 a year when $20 a month would not pay for Xbox Live.
Yeah, just like usually for like yearly stuff, it's always like $50 to $60 between PlayStation and Xbox. For $20 a year with Nintendo, yeah.
Yeah, and you're getting, they give you discounts on eShop games. Awesome.
There's it's kind of a Nintendo Netflix service.
Kind of like every month they're going to send you like a retro game that's been kind of revamped to include new features such as network play.
Yeah, that's awesome on its own.
That is cool. Like if you can play like Super Mario Brothers 3 2-player with 2 switches over a network, that is freaking cool.
Gosh, yes.
And again, it's just that kind of thing of releasing old games with new stuff. It's just like, hey, thanks for your support. We're glad you liked this.
Yeah.
Here, have it again. Yes, you have to pay for it, but because you do, here's some extra.
Yeah, because it's just one of those things. It's more than just you get access to online play.
Yeah,
there's a lot of goodies thrown in.
Good benefits for it.
So $20 for that, very good. But they did make sure to announce, they did confirm that is not replacing Virtual Console.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, they are not replacing Virtual Console with that like kind of updated version of older games that they're going to be trickling out. It sounds like it sounded like, now there's this not in any way official confirmation, but it sounded like by the way by the way Nintendo announced it, it sounds like they're compiling all their games so they can just drop it, all of Virtual Console, on fans. Rather than the slow, pitiful trickle that they've done over the years with the other consoles. It sounds like they're basically compiling everything and just like, here!
Yeah,
here's our library. Play.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like, shit, my wallet! It screams at me!
Because I still remember, like, the ways of, like, Wii stuff, like, it was strong at the start, but then it was just after a while, like, it's to, like, stuff we released, and you're like, the fudge is this? And same thing on the Wii U. Like, I still remember when people commented, like, oh, Pokemon Snap got released, and it's like, this year on the Wii U, and it's like, what took you so long?
Yeah, so I hope that's the case, that they just basically compiling it all and just going to do a massive dump upload onto the eShop. That is going to be a very profitable week for Nintendo if they do.
Yes.
And my wallet will bitch at me.
And it's like follow up, and that's of course my general question was just like, what if I own them on the Wii U? Do I get basically what it is? If you owned it on the Wii and when the Wii U version came out, you got a discount. Usually it's like $1 for the game. So basically getting it for the but is that going to happen again on the Switch version? Or
no word on it yet. They haven't even officially announced that it's a thing yet. It's just the way Nintendo was talking about Virtual Console. Honestly, it just sounded like they were going to be doing the dump. There's no official confirmation that it's coming out if and or when.
Yes, exactly.
So nothing on there. One thing I am surprised about that they didn't bring up at E3, they didn't announce any of the Dragon Quest games.
Yeah.
I know that's like,
I know they're coming out.
Oh yeah, the Dragon Quest games are coming, and they're major games. I'm kind of surprised they didn't have anything about those at E3.
Yeah.
Although then again, Square Enix didn't seem to have much of a presence there. The only thing, actually, this was another Sony game that announced it. Just seems so stupid. A Final Fantasy 15 fishing game.
Yeah, for like it's still like the way I like a VR game. But and the other thing I found is like it wasn't announced or anything, but I found it very clever. Is the latest expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, Stormblood.
Yes, that looks good.
The fun thing, they had a blood drive during E3. That's like Storm Blood Drive. It's like clever to incorporate from the American Red Cross to do something like that. It's like,
yeah,
that's
cool.
cool.
I like that kind of thing, you know, and it's a good cause, really.
Yeah,
that kind of alliteration I have no qualms with. So you know the expansion there. But yeah, other than that, Square Enix didn't really have much of a presence at E3. Granted, they may have had it on the show floor. It just wasn't a part of Nintendo's presentations.
Or much of the other presentation other than just the, you know, again, the VR demonstration. I just call it a demonstration. I don't even know what a flip it was. Then they showed that Final Fantasy 15 fishing game.
It was just a Final Fantasy 15 fishing game that just looked stupid.
Yeah.
You know, and Mike tried to tease me of saying it's like you'd probably buy it if it were a Zelda fishing game, and I'm like, no, actually, I would not. If it were just straight fishing, I'm not interested in that. Why would I spend my money on that? To be honest,
what if you could fish out masks?
If I could then wear them and go around the world of Hyrule wearing them, yes, but then it's not just a straight fishing game. If it's
one of those things, most likely if your good old buddy Jesse owned it, you would have no problem playing it because it's costing you no money. If it's like outside of your own wallet, it would never happen.
If one of my friends owned it, I'd give it a shot
and
try
VR.
it. Yeah, and it had VR. It's like, and you know, I'd give it a shot, but it's not something I'd go out and spend my money on. I know I'd give it a try. Just simply, it's there. I can give it a try, and if I happen to find it super fun, well, maybe I'll consider getting it. Oh, another thing. Nintendo is actually looking into VR. Now, granted, at the moment they're more concerned with filling out their library. That is their primary focus at the moment.
Yeah.
They care more about that than anything else. And
for me, it's just like the idea of Nintendo VR is what in the world would they release, and followed by how?
Well, that's the thing, is that Shigeru Miyamoto does not want Mario to be... He does not feel that Mario would be a good fit for VR.
Obviously.
Honestly, I could see Metroid doing it. I could see Star Fox doing it. And I could see F-Zero doing it. Most of their other franchises, no. I don't see it. You know... Zelda, it's too of an action-packed, or it's a too action-oriented, movement-based game. And considering they've basically announced all their games are going to be the open sky format that they did for Breath of the Wild, that's never going to happen. Or at least it's never going to happen if they want it to be any good. Yeah. Let me think. Any other IPs that would be good for VR? Honestly, those are the three main. Yeah. You know, Star Fox, because, you know, the cockpit kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. There's just one thing I just want to mention that was announced. Well, huge shout out to Violet the Dragon for sending me this, because when they did the PC World, you know, conference, which I totally missed. It was like not on my radar at all. But the only reason I know of it because she sent me on Twitter the trailer for the newest DLC coming up for XCOM 2, which I'm all for, because it's basically these three aliens throughout your campaign that are basically not only hunting the Advent, they're also hunting your crew. One is more like a ranger with a sniper rifle, one's like a rogue assassin, and the other one is like a warlock. And it's like, so it's like not until you're basically caught in the middle of all this. So it's like, it is coming out in August, which for me it's like it's, you know, a couple of months, but I hopefully it's sooner because I'm currently live streaming XCOM. It would be awesome to just incorporate that DLC in the current campaign I'm in, but I will patiently wait.
Oh, so one thing I did mention that we were talking about, but I kind of forgot about it. Nintendo, focusing largely on multiplayer games. They're really kind of pushing the esports thing. Now, granted, like in an interview, they kind of mentioned that we've always kind of been a part of it. You know, it's always been part of their library, like the Nintendo World Championships, the Smash Brothers series.
Definitely Smash Brothers.
You know, all those games. They were the first to introduce multiple ports to plug in controllers for multiplayer play. You know, so but the thing is that they're largely kind of heavily focusing on it. But the nice thing is, like, Mario Odyssey is co-op.
Oh yeah,
that's something they
really?
announced. Yeah, it's going to be a co-op, so that's kind of cool. But one thing that I liked is that while there's a big emphasis on multiplayer, none of the games that they have that for are exclusively multiplayer. They are all fully fleshed out single-player games that you can have just as much fun doing on your own. Well, except for like Splatoon and ARMS. Those have to be. Well, Splatoon 2 does have a single-player mode.
And yeah, like the original Splatoon had one.
Yeah, the original one did too. ARMS seems like it. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure
they
if
really
ARMS
haven't
has a
talked
story.
much.
That's just for me. I'm assuming there's one, but not absolute confirmation if there's a single. I
Probably
imagine
gonna
there
be
is.
limited.
It's probably not that big of a focus, but
Yeah.
almost all their games, even though they have like a multiplayer focus, they try and encourage, hey, you can do multiplayer. You know, join with your fellow Switch users and play this. It's not required. All these games are single-player games. They just have the option of multiplayer. And a lot of them are local multiplayer, which I am very fond of. I'm very happy that, once again, I can go over to a friend's house, we can turn on a system, and just play a game together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I am very, very pleased with this, because honestly, for a while there, it just seemed to die.
Yes.
You know, local multiplayer seemed to die. And honestly, that is, in my opinion, what killed Halo 5. That they got rid of split screen entirely. At that point, that, including the reviews I'd heard of it, no interest in the game.
Yes.
So local multiplayer, I'm pleased about, but they're not forgetting that single player needs to be a thing too. So, I think that's about it. I can probably scrounge more, but we're already a little
Let's give
over
our
time.
closing remarks of the E3 as a whole right now, because it's just like, especially Joey, thank you for you're basically a huge talker in this one. So thank you for that. So again, we apologize if we missed anything. I mostly tried, for me, in the hour that I had to compile this list, I tried to come up with games that either had an interest to me or for us, or games that were announced and not just hey, we're still working. Some games were like Destiny 2. Of course, I didn't add this list because we knew about Destiny 2. No surprise. And I just mostly kind of impressions. So, and of course, in that time, I did miss something. So I do apologize if we did miss anything. Yeah. But also, I just like my remarks on E3 this year. There were some games that I was impressed with. Again, even though I was not able to watch every conference like I usually do, but it's just at this moment where, again, we're all enjoying it in a different aspect as we did in years past, as we're now just for me, it's just fun. For me, it's just fun, the idea of just making fun of these games, because it's just in E3's past, there's always been history of lies with certain games, so it's just very easy to just make fun of presenters when they hype it up and no, tell us the truth, Mr. Bond, kind of thing.
Yeah, hype up the game, and I have a fun game of which of these games is going to be canceled.
Yeah, one of the games going to be canceled, which one is, it's just that kind of thing. But for me, it's I don't want to say meh, because that's not the right word for it. I just feel they had, I would say an equivalent for me is this was instead of a full-on fireworks show, I just feel there's some moments where it's there were some bottle rockets here and there for me.
Letter grade, like A through F. What would you grade it?
I would C+ for me.
C+?
There was some excitement, but it was far from a failure.
Yeah.
So that's the way I would rate it.
Mike?
I'd put it in the C range. I did miss quite a bit of it, though. So I don't know if that's fair. And sorry about not talking too much during this, since I did miss a fair amount of E3.
We had to bully him to get on for the
that was only for PlayStation, but which I can already think of a game we've missed. I just don't remember the name. Is it Dark Souls-like one? It's more anime-ish.
Oh, that's right. I don't remember what the name of that one was, but
we'll touch on that at a later point.
We'll touch on that later when we actually have the name and stuff like that. But for me, I'd actually give it a B-. Far from the best E3. It didn't really have any of those mind-grippingly awesome moments that stood out. There are those E3s that have those moments that are just whoa, and they you just remember them for years.
Oh my god, a werewolf Link.
Twilight Princess reveal, the best E3 I ever saw. But
we did comment on that, so don't go too far.
Yes, but they had a lot of decent games. A lot of really kind of neat games to fill up the library. Overall, in my opinion, I think Nintendo probably did the best. It had the most attention that I focused on it. I'd say Ubisoft and PlayStation came in at a close second, though. Xbox, I have no interest in.
Yeah, Xbox was...
Bethesda just focusing too much on their past library, and EA just flopped for me. But then again, because of their games that they announced don't hold appeal to me. Others may feel that EA did better, and that, they did very good. Up to you.
Just for me, it's I think Ubisoft has been my first, just mainly just a lot of things announced as I've, and also a lot of oh hey, and again some prices here and there, but again, I hate the idea of going by who won E3.
Yeah,
I
can kind of understand that.
I always, for me, it's if I had to pick, I would say Ubisoft, mainly because holy crap, the stuff they announced was a lot of them were unique, a lot of them surprising here and there, and all that kind of stuff. When I felt like everyone else kind of outside from Xbox announcing their new console, everyone kind of, I felt kind of played safe, rather.
Yeah, honestly, I think, so in my opinion, Xbox, Microsoft, they tried to show off a lot. They had 41 games that they announced. None of them were interesting enough to get me an Xbox 6, though.
Yeah.
But, it almost seemed like you could kind of tell the appeal, the idea, the mentality that each of these companies had going into it.
Yeah.
Xbox was sadly kind of desperate. It's look, we have all these games. Buy us.
Please.
Your only hope.
Where are you going?
No, don't go to your PCs.
Come back.
Come back. Buy an Xbone. PlayStation.
Xbox.
Yeah. PlayStation seemed to kind of coast on their lead. It's kind of how I saw them.
Yeah, same here.
They have a solid lead right now. They have done very well this console generation, and so they kind of coasted on. They revealed a few good, decent exclusives, but honestly, it just seemed that you were kind of coasting. But they had some pretty decent reveals that they had a pretty good production for their presentation.
Yeah, definitely.
And god damn, they had an audacious theater.
Oh yeah, but yeah, that was just basically just kind of reflect what Joey said, far from the best, but not a failure.
Yep.
I mean, I went through failures of E3s in the past.
Oh yeah, and finally Nintendo just seemed like they were just trying to emphasize, yes, we have games, we are making games, and they're all coming this year. Yes. That seemed to be their big mentality. They're trying to really push that. We're supporting the system. We're heavily supporting the system.
Yeah, just the only thing I have about their little conference, short.
Yes.
Holy crap, short.
Oh, yeah. But, then again, I did like their formula. Announcement. The
formula was good.
And the Treehouse is where they have the developer interviews.
Yes.
So, I like that formula.
Yes.
I do wish that they'd spent a little more time. They could have spent a little more time, but honestly... I think they're probably going to do another major Nintendo Direct at the Tokyo Game Show. They seem to have started doing that more, so I get the feeling that they're dividing it up by seasons.
Yeah.
Third quarter and fourth quarter of this year was E3, and then first and second quarter of 2018 are going to be revealed at the Tokyo Game Show.
Right.
And I think that's the formula they're kind of going on right now, which is not bad, really.
Okay.
So, anyway... We could go on and on.
I just have one question. Out of all of the games that have been announced, is there any of them you will buy no question at launch? Is there any games you will buy no question? Not waiting for it to go on sale, looks good. Is there any games that you will buy the moment it comes out?
Monster Hunter World and Mario Odyssey.
Monster Hunter World.
For me, again, I got commented on Monster Hunter World. Definitely, again, XCOM DLC and the new Wolfenstein. Those are the ones I can see that I will go out and pre-order without hesitation.
Yep.
Everything else, either wait for sale or wait for
see how it goes.
Wait and see.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other games I'll definitely keep an eye on that are going to be major, possibly first week purchases, maybe even pre-orders. But off the top of my head, those are the two that are oh, yep, I'm going to get them.
Yes. So
of course, I already own Zelda and the DLC for it, so that's out of the question.
Yeah. So then again, there's our basically our impressions and our comments on E3 2017. This has been Jesse,
Joey,
Mike,
and we hope to talk with you in the corner once again.